All right, welcome everybody. You are looking right now at the video recording of the 2018 Great Western Trail final game. This was a tournament we had at Seven Springs, Pennsylvania at the end of July, and this was a 106 player event. The biggest Great Western Trail tournament I'm aware of. We got all the way down to, we went through a semifinal. We had three heats. The top 16 got to play in a semifinal. The top four got to play at this final table. And I'm here with Eugene Yee and Antony Saccenti, and we'll do introductions a little bit later because I want to start talking about what we're looking at real quick in a minute. So we'll save introductions for later. But I have Eugene Yee on my left. My name's Scott Saccenti, Antony Saccenti on my right, and we're going to go ahead and give a commentary to this final. You won't hear audio from the final itself. You're just going to hear us talking for the next 2.5 hours. But this is the video feed of the final. And what you're looking at right now is, and you're going to be looking at this for about 12 minutes, I think, is the opening flop, and we bid for turn order to start the tournament. So we will just quick hello from both my fellow commenters. On the left is Eugene.
Hi, I'm Eugene.
And on my right is Antony.
How's it going? I'm Antony.
All right. So what you're looking at right now is four players who are setting up the board and preparing to bid for turn order. So I want to start this commentary where we're gonna talk not just about the game we're watching, and we'll talk about that a lot, but we also want to talk about some general strategy. And one of the things we do in our game group, I'm the GM for this tournament, so I had bidding for turn order in both the semifinal and the final, and so I want to start our conversation today with why I think that's important, what you guys think about that, and so let's start there. Is this a game you feel like it's been proper? Get right to it. Is this a game you feel has been properly balanced by the designer? Because what he thought was that an extra buck for each position later in turn order was enough. What do you all think about that?
I think that is not enough. Like in lots of turn-based games, turn order can be so incredibly important, being the first or the last or whatever, to get to a certain, either a building spot or pick the thing that you want to. I think the dollar compensation is usually not enough. So like Scott says, in a lot of our turn-based games, we will bid for turn order. And that seems to balance things out because you get to evaluate seat position and bid accordingly.
I agree with all that, yeah. Bidding to go first, second, third, fourth is everything into pretty much any game when we bid. It determines if, you get something for cheap, or if you're bidding for something that's really good, then if you bid for it, then you won't, kill somebody in a game, and maybe it'll level out, so that's even for all players.
So let's be more specific to this game in particular. I don't mean this game we're looking at, but the Great Western Trail in particular. I want to talk about when you're thinking about bidding for turn order. We're talking about bidding victory points to go earlier in turn order. So at the end of it, I might have ended up, I get to go first. I bid 4 points to do that, and somebody else going second for 2 points or whatever. What are the things that we're looking at? I'll let you all start because I have some thoughts on this. But what are the things, anybody who wants to jump in, what are the things you're looking at in Great Western Trail when you're deciding how important it is to you to go, first instead of second or third instead of fourth?
For me, probably the two most important things are, one, since we find money incredibly important in the game, where you put a tax building so that you get a certain amount of money flow from the other players seems to be extremely important. And if you are going earlier in the turn order, many people at the board may decide that certain placements for the first or second tax buildings are important, and so that is worth bidding for.
Auntie, with that in mind, now let's look at the game we're looking at right now. You see the setup already, so you can see where the hazards are out. What's your calculation right now and thinking what's important?
What's important is whoever gets start player, their first play will probably be to go to the building spot, buy one of the tax buildings, and probably place it in the first building spot that's right after the train one bump with the
Space A.
Space A, yeah. With there's the two blue hazards down there. My first play in this game would be to place it down there. on one of the 3 spots there, because that's where everybody will start the round with all the money. So you're guaranteed money going.
And looking at this setup, there's not even a way to burn your money out on that first tile. Like sometimes on the first tile, there's cows or heads or building. So everybody's going to be coming around the loop with cash and no way to dump it. So why shouldn't you be the one who gets it? So so that when I'm looking at the board, Eugene, that's the first place I'm looking at. Is, by the way, shorthand for the hazard areas. I call the bottom one the swamp, the yellow one I call the desert, and then the brown one I call the canyon, if that makes it easier to think about it.
I also see that near the canyon, there is a hazard there. The 2 big building places on the board are the people and the cows, which are the last 2 places before going to Kansas City. So that means people in this game are saving up to make sure they have money for those 2 spots, because usually people are usually playing cows or buying heads. So having toll buildings right next to the canyon are probably going to make money off it.
So in this game we're watching, Andrew is going to bid 5 points to go first. He's going to get first. He's the player that's right now sitting in the bottom right of your screen, and he will keep his chair when the game actually starts. We're going to switch seats in a minute when we finish bidding. But he's looking at that too, and he's looking at what Auntie just noted. I mean, where are the 3 places you spend money in this game? You're going to spend money on heads, buildings, and cows, especially heads and cows, right? So those are the last 2 tiles, as you pointed out. If you look at the futures market, the 2 tiles that are going to pop in slot 1 up in that futures market are both canyon hazards. So even though if you look at the opening setup here, you're thinking, well, 2 hazards down in the swamp, 2 hazards over in the desert, and there's 1 in the canyon. So the canyon is the least good of the 3. But, Auntie, you're right. The canyon spot's the best spot for a traditional hazard to go, because you're going to get a second one. The first guy who goes in is going to have to put a second hazard in there, and you're going to be taxing people the whole game as they try to buy their cows and heads. It's going to be so good.
Frankly, I still think the first spot after the neutral building is still better. I agree that the next to the rock slider, the canyon area is good. But if you look down and below, there's 2 water hazards. One's a black hand and one is a green.
Yeah.
And so you would have to either pay $3 to the bank to run down low, or spend $1 to you to go across on the bottom row.
This is going to come up later as we start talking about a little bit more advanced strategies and what we're going to refer to as a builder strategy. But I think Eugene and I and Auntie all probably, despite a very conventional start, would be to go into that canyon, because it makes a lot of sense. The way that you play, if you're going to play builder, is you want to be in that swamp with that first one, because what you're setting up is a future game state later where you're going to have a really powerful taxing situation down in that swamp. So even though the canyon makes sense as the starter, and that's going to be Andrew's move, and it's going to feed into his game because he's going to play a cow game, I think if it had been either of the 3 of us, that's not where we'd have gone. We'd have gone down the swamp, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think so.
So Andrew in this game ends up playing cows. So his first play is what he should have done, and he placed his taxing building right next to the canyons, and then he would eventually upgrade his taxing building to the one that's the one that lets him draw 1 card per cowboy he has, which would let him then move into his cow market. So I think he set that up good for this game.
When we get closer to that, I want to talk about that, because I have some criticism of that. Keep in mind, any criticism I give in this game, I lost. The guy in the bottom right now is Andrew Emerick, and I lost to him in this game. And the guy in the top right, you can't see his head, is Donte Saccenti. I lost to him in this game. And I have lots of criticism of their games and some of the things that I think they could have done better. But they both beat me very comfortably, just so you know. So there's that. What, by the way, is what you're watching is still us bidding for turn order, by the way. And you can't see them, but there's a group of people around us all wondering when we're going to start the game. And we probably did this for, roughly 15 minutes. We're still thinking about who's going to go first and what we're willing to pay for it. What is a silly number to pay for turn order? And what is a steal for turn order? I have a little bit more to say on this, but I'll let you all start.
Well, when we were playing lots of these games together, I know that we were starting out and that if the hazards were there appropriately so that you knew you were going to collect your tax, we were bidding up 6 and 7 points to go first. I will frankly admit that lately I've been thinking that that is too much to pay, and that I think some of us have explored and found that there are also ways of working around going third or fourth, partially because the money that you get, the extra dollars that you get for sitting third or fourth, although may not seem like a lot, you can there's almost ways of getting enough money so that you can purchase multiple workers in the first round if you work it right.
Yes.
I think a lot of the things that we look at when we're starting the game out is A, where to put a tax building, and B, what worker to hire, if any, to begin with. And then somewheres along the line, we're trying to figure out how you can get multiple workers at the same time. And so if you do it right, and if the buildings lay out, the neutral buildings lay out for you properly, you may be able to buy 2 workers on the first loop around. And so going later in turn order is not quite as bad as at least I thought it used to be in the beginning.
Well, I don't think I'm quite as convinced as you that going later is kind of okay. I agree that we got to the point where we were paying 6-7 for first, and maybe that's a little steep. But another thing that I think about with regard to turn order is the nature of the game is an unequal turn game. And so if you are going later in the turn order, there's a decent chance your opponent's going to get 1 extra action on you. I think, I was trying to think about this the other day. I think you take roughly 30 actions in this game. I could have that off somewhat. But I think you take roughly 30 actions in this game, and maybe you're trying to score 90 points. So maybe an action's worth about 3 points. So that's another consideration. It even feels worse at the very end. Your actions tend to be really lucrative. Like maybe, you're getting 5 to 15 points a turn at the very end of the game. And so when one of your opponents gets 1 extra turn on you, you really feel like, oh my goodness, he had 1 more turn than me, and in his last turn he got 12. That's just killing me. Why didn't I bid 4 instead of 3 to get in front of him? Mm-hmm. Other things, one thing you noted too, by the way, that you're looking at on that flop when you think about turn order, and I didn't mention this, is that available workers right away. If you have a particular way that you like to play, that's a real consideration if you want to try to get in front of somebody, maybe, and especially if you know the table. There's a guy sitting across from you that likes to play cows, and you like to play cows, and there's one cowboy sitting there. That's another thing you might think about in trying to get ahead of him on the pace.
I think bidding for turn order in this game it's definitely huge. So I went 4th in this game, and that was a mistake. I should have bid to avoid going 4th. I'm playing against 3 players that all know how to play the game, so no one's wasting actions in this game. Everyone's got, all the money. No one's going to waste an action on for an auxiliary action. Everyone's got their strategy planned out.
That would allow you, if they, like when you say you're wasting action, do something that would allow you to now jump ahead of them.
Yes.
And what you gave up on that turn order.
So I thought it would be fine to go 4th, have all my opponents start in negative points, and maybe I could, have an advantage over them. But going after everybody the whole game, just, they get to do everything first, and they know what they're doing. It's not going to be good for me.
Yeah, I'm the player on the top left, by the way, on your screen. And in this game, when I saw the flop, I looked at everything and I said, I just don't want to go 4th. And I was really happy that you went 4th. So I
bet you were.
I just didn't want to go 4th. I felt like, there are 3 obvious taxing places to drop a guy, to drop your first building. And so nothing's terrible. I'd always like to go earlier in the turn order, but I don't want to pay too much for it. Everybody, like you say, everybody here is good, so I don't want to spot Andrew Emerick, 4 or 5 points if I can help it. So
were you guys looking at what the opening flop of workers was? Did that play into it at all?
In this game, I don't think so much because it's a potpourri there. You see 2 builders out in the top, and then 1 cowboy, 1 engineer. You see another builder coming down the line. It's pretty balanced. So I don't think anybody is sitting down at the table right now and thinking, "Oh crap, I have to get in front of somebody because otherwise I'm not going to be able to play the strategy I want to play." I don't think that happened in this game. Other things you notice about, we're talking in general really about the game and the opening flop is, you'll sometimes, this is a high hazard game, if you'll notice, right? Mm-hmm. We had the TBs there's only 2, right? There's only 2 TBs.
So you're negative money to start.
We're negative money to start. It's going to be a tight game to start. And so the hazards are out. Everybody's going to be super motivated to get a toll booth out. So everything's going to be tight. And it's going to be that way for a while at the beginning of the game. If you have a different kind of start, where, there's like maybe, 5, 6 TPs. We had a game the other day that were like 6 TPs and 1 hazard, right? Somebody's telling me about that.
Yep.
And you're sitting on, that's a totally different game, my first action in a game like that, I'm probably just take a TP for $4 and get started. Let's go. It looks like we finally decided on turn order.
Oh, I have to get up. I tried my best not to get up.
Antony and Donte are switching, and so now we're going to be in the seats that we are in the tournament. Andrew Emerick is going to be the start player. He's blue down in the bottom right. Donte Saccenti is going to be player number 2. He's yellow down in the bottom left. I'm Scott up in the top left. I'm playing green. You'll notice that green does not come. This is my pimped out set. Green does not come. My daughters took a Sharpie to those green Sharpie to those buildings and made a little outline for me, and I stole the green.
It used to be white.
Yeah, it used to be white. Yeah. I stole. Well, no, those green discs I stole from a game called Igloo Pop, which is a little kids game, and then the meeple that I used, the green meeple, is from Agricola or something like that. Up in the top right, playing red, is Antony. And we're about to get started finally. Andrew's going to have the first turn. And all this talking now, we've only talked about turn. But that's just it's something to think about when you play the game. And I think I wanted to start with that because you could see how much interest and attention the beginning of the game played out for these 4 players playing in this final. I mean, we spent 15 minutes thinking about how we wanted to start our game.
So what was the bids for seat position?
Thank you for asking. Andrew bid 5 to go first. Donte bid 4 for second. I bid 2 for third. And of course, fourth will always go for 0. You'll notice, by the way, this is kind of funny. When we bid, we put everything out. So everything's public, right? You even get to see your first 4 cards that you're going to start with, which can be a consideration when you think about how, that can absolutely be a consideration when I think about how much I want to bid, because with money being so important early, let's suppose I open the game with just a handful of 1s. I don't think I'm bidding really hard to go first now, because I'm going to have to slow down and drop some of those 1s off on the 2 for $4 space anyway. I'm going to lose pace anyway. I got to get a little bit of money. I got to get those out of my hand. So that's another consideration as you're opening 4 cards. But you'll notice that we didn't even bother to deal out the objective cards. That probably not so much a consideration. Maybe it should be. We boned that. That was a mistake. Maybe that should have been. But I'm probably not looking too hard at the objective cards. By the way, we talked about this the other day off mic. I look at my opening objective card. We all get one of the 4. I look at my opening objective card as a little piece of what drives my game. What do you all think about that?
I actually don't care at all.
Yeah.
It's a minor part for me.
Yeah, for starting objective cards and you're starting 4 cards for your hand, I do not let that decide what I'm going to do for the game. If I have the cow starting objective card, the 3 value cow and the 4 value cow, if my opponent's first plays are going to be, going for cowboys, then I'll forget about that objective card and do something else. So I don't let that make my decision.
So Andrew started out on the building spot, and he built the 1B. Is that correct?
Yeah, he built 1B and he put it in the canyon hazard thing, and that is, as you'll see, that's going to be a tile he exploits and is pretty successful with. I have some criticism of it that I'll hold for later about where he might have put that. What was the opening sequence? Was Andrew popped for building, Donte pops for building, Donte goes down swamp. He's setting something up that's going to be really powerful later. And, at at 15 minutes 30 seconds into this video, you don't hear this because I don't have the mic on for the event itself. But Antony says, "I'm gonna go last this time and see what happens."
Oh no,
so that didn't work out. Andrew, 2 minutes before, had said, "I absolutely could lose the game right here, right now." That's when we're bidding, by the way. I think that I might have lost my best chance at winning this game. I didn't lose the game, but I lost my best chance at winning this game by sitting behind Donte, because he ends up doing exactly what I would have wanted to do. So I stick my building in the desert, which is not great. And
let me talk about my move.
Yeah, go ahead. So Antony's host, by the way.
So I know my opponents in this game. I know Andrew likes to play cows. Donte just won his semi game playing builder, and he's pretty good at it. So he's going to do builder again. And my dad to my right, he's going to do whatever's left. I'm going fourth, so I get to see everyone. I know everyone's first action is going to be to play a building. So I was like, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to make a statement by the first head, and I'll try to make sure I'm all by myself. So I buy the cow, and I'm trying to force Andrew to do something different this game. And so I buy the one cow, trying to make him, maybe do builder or engineer. I know Donte's doing builder no matter what. I just know him. I know. So now I'm looking at my dad and Andrew, and I'm like, okay, they're probably going to do the same strategy this game. So I'm going to go buy the builder.
Buy the cowboy.
Buy the cowboy. And I won't buy a building first round.
We're posing for a picture there, by the way.
Yeah, which ended up hurting me so much. And so
the fact that you bought the cowboy first?
Yeah, I bought the cowboy first instead of placing a building like you three did.
Oh, okay.
And then I would go into Kansas City first and get money.
But what difference would it make if you're fourth? Yeah. You're in the next loop. You get to the building spot. Yeah. And then you get your building down wherever you want it. Yeah, I mean they've already put their buildings down.
Yeah. I'm looking at the buildings right now, and the starting buildings flop. Yeah. It's set up for two strategies: Cowboys and Builder. Yeah. The Builder is set.
Could I run through them real quick for anybody following at home? I'll just put it on the chart. The buildings in this game are 1B, 2A, 3A, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7A, 8B, 9A, 10B. It is a strong cowboy game with 2A and 4B in the game. And it is a strong builder game, I think, with 8, 9, and 10 the way they are. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so the good cowboy buildings are 2A and 4B, and then the builder is 10B and 8B. Yeah. So
this is a fearsome. Yeah. When I like to play builder, and when I see this flop, I am really worried about cows.
So my first play, I took a gamble. I bought the cowboy, trying to. Yeah. I think the only one else at my table that would play cowboys would be Andrew. Yeah. And he's to my left. So I'm like, I'm going to gamble, buy the first cowboy. And he knows he's after me now. Yeah, so maybe he'll do something else. Yeah. And he still ends up doing cowboys.
Yeah, because you're trying to push him to engineer, right?
Yes. And so the whole game, I'm worried about him getting in my way. And then I start to play bad. I place my building in the wrong spot.
We'll get there.
Yeah. And then it goes downhill from there. So
we'll get there.
Next topic here.
So you're about to see a moment in the game where, well, we'll wait till my turn. Antony just went in. You drop. You had no choice there. You had to drop the canyon thing, which is going to help Andrew early.
Yeah, and I eventually put my taxing building next to his because I know that will make money, but I should have placed it down in the swamp.
Maybe.
Even though I made good money off
right now, you're deciding whether to feed the builder or the cowboy. It's an interesting moment, actually.
I know.
Okay, one of the really important things in this game, and I think people don't put enough thought into it. I think Andrew did not put enough thought into it at several moments in this game. People don't put enough thought into what builder to put where. I mean, when you start playing this game at a really competitive level, it's actually really important.
You mean which worker
to pick in that binary choice?
Right.
I mean, because you're gonna have a chance to cost maybe one of your opponents $2-3 extra by what row you're almost always putting things out for others. Yep. So you need to think about where you want those things to go.
Right. Certainly here, when you're putting them out, because the worker hire space is late, what you put out, the other people get to first.
Yeah. So you'll notice we're dropping in Kansas City. If you have even rudimentary exposure to this game, you know that the more experienced players are going to drop in Kansas City for probably their first two. If you're new to this game, you're probably not watching this video, and you're certainly giving up by now after we talked about turn order for the first 15 minutes. But for those of you who are still listening, the common move is to drop in Kansas City once or twice, probably twice. Even though you lose minus 6 points at the end of the game each time you do that, you get $5. It sounds like it is a terrible trade.
$6.
Is it?
It's minus 6 points, but you get $6 early money.
Correct.
Right. Sorry, I misspoke. Right. Yeah. It's a horrible trade, but it's necessary because this game played at a really competitive level is all about setup, and you absolutely must have money early. The points that you're giving up now will be more than made up later. I would invite anyone to try to beat us by not dropping in Kansas City. I'd love to see it. I honestly would.
No, I tried that the other day. Remember?
I just don't think so.
You feel miserable. You have no money.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
No.
Because $6 is basically the cost of hiring a worker early on.
Yeah.
And so the question is, are you willing to give up the 6 points to get the worker, no matter what else your money situation looks like? If you had enough for one worker, the $6 basically gets you close to getting two workers. And most of us find that hiring the correct workers early on is crucial to fulfilling whatever strategy you're going for.
What you're about to see on my next turn is an example of the kind of player I am. I am going to go around the long way and pay the bank 2 instead of giving Andrew 1. And that really miffed him early. And I don't blame him. As he points out to me in game, he said, you're basically... there's an opportunity for us both to gain a buck, if you wanted to look at it like that. It kind of is. Did I not? Yeah, I'm going around, right? There we go. Yeah.
You just don't like paying your opponents.
I really don't think it's good to pay your opponents if at all possible. I'll unless I need the dollar in the next action or two, I will almost always, and I don't think I see other players play like this, I will almost always pay 2 to the bank over 1. I'll always pay 3 to the bank rather than 2 if I can. I mean, unless you absolutely have to have that dollar, and sometimes you do, I don't like giving money to my opponents. In fact, in the semifinal game I played, I was playing Randy Bueller, and there was a moment in that game where I paid 3 to the bank to avoid giving him 1 because I knew he needed the 1.
And where you are, you're real near the end of the loop anyway. So you've worked out the amount of money you need to either buy cows and or hire workers, and then you go into Kansas City, and then you're getting your next money anyway.
Yeah.
Is this where Andrew's arguing with you?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with your decision there on paying your opponents over the bank. I would always do, I think, 2 over the 1, just like you said, unless I really need the dollar.
You'll notice that we're all going in or have gone in by now, and we one thing we can talk about real quick is what's that first disc you like to pull off when you make that first delivery, regardless of where you make the delivery. We go to Kansas City for the money, but what's your thought process on the first disc you pull off?
I almost always pull off the dollar. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially if they do cow strategy, pull off the second cycle card action, but I always find that the money is more important for me.
How about you?
I think it depends on what you have chosen to do for the game. If you're doing Cowboys, I think that dollar or the extra draw should be your first disc. If you're doing Engineers, and I actually think I'm going to start doing this now when I play more and more, I will take off the disc that lets you bump your chain for $1, because I think early in the game, people that fight for that first Station Master, you always need that one extra bump, and I think that'll be enough to get you that first one, which will pay off a lot.
I really disagree about some of the things that you all just said, especially Antony.
Oh, okay, sure.
I think. I don't disagree with what Eugene said, because I agree with him. I think you take the dollar off first. I think you're paying a point for a buck when you drop in Kansas City. The money early is everything. So I always take the dollar off first, and I didn't used to, and it's a misplay. I think even if you're doing cows, it's a misplay. You don't want to burn through the deck real fast. What you want to do, if you're a good card player, what you want to do is you want to buy those cows and get them into the first shuffle. So you don't want to be pulling your deck yet.
Yep.
You know, you want the money to buy the cows, get them into the first shuffle, and then now as you segue into the second, fourth of your game, the around the 25% mark, then you start thinking about, now I got good cards in my discard. Now I want to start digging through that deck. You want to dig through your deck early. You want to seed the discards with good stuff if you're cows. And if you're not doing cows, I don't see any reason at all to be pulling cards too much. If I'm building, I don't really have any cows in there. That doesn't make any sense to. But you see Andrew pulling off the buck. Auntie, you pulled off.
I did the dollar.
You pulled the dollar too. I mean, that's what we're doing. I think that's the strongest play. I think, and if you're going to play, I do agree with one thing Antony said. If you're going to make a play early for a train rush, maybe you want to snipe one of the early station masters or something like that. Yeah, then I could see you pulling off the dollar bump for the train. That's expensive early, though. It's an expensive way to go.
It is, yeah.
I certainly agree with you on the second time you pull a disc off, because I usually do money first and then the cycle action second, and then I leave myself without any extra train movements, and that has certainly cost me as I'm trying to fight for station masters in the middle game.
I think Andrew pulled in on that first delivery of his.
Mm-hmm.
Has he got there yet? He got there yet, right?
Yeah.
He pulled in there with $3. He had a bunch of white cards. I think he might have even he either had two or three white cards. No, he had 2 white cards and 2 ones. So he pulls in there with a $3 delivery, takes 9. That's a tough start with money being so tight. That was unlucky. And what's more, he's got all 3 of his white cards now in the discard deck.
He also has me.
So it's not going to be any help on the next delivery either.
I also bought the 1 cowboy, so hopefully he's thinking, I can't do cowboys this game. I have to do something else. Antony got the first one.
It's a small thing, but the white cards, if you're a cowboy player, the white cards are pretty important. The building 2 A's in the game, so you don't want to have the game start. You're in a position where you can leverage that tile in the second loop, maybe if you do it right, and all 3 of your whites are in the discard pile. That's a shame. That's a tough start, I think.
So, Antony, you bought a cow. Andrew, did he buy anything yet?
He hasn't gone yet, but he will buy 2.
Okay.
He will buy 2, I think.
Okay.
Which I thought he would do a different strategy since I bought the 1.
Donte bought a builder, and Scott, you bought a builder?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. For what it's worth, my thought process right now is I am very nervous. I didn't know what for sure Donte was going to do. We can talk about this just a little bit. In our game, the top 2 players on your screen and the bottom left player, this is our game group. This is me and my 2 kids, and then Eugene, who's talking with me today, that's our game group, and we play a certain way, and I think we all think builder's very strong, and so Eugene. Eugene taught us how to build. I think we'll talk about that more later when we do we'll talk about that more later when we do introductions. But all my best stuff I steal from Eugene. That's the short answer on that. But honestly, the player in the bottom left, Donte, he is not someone I've seen. I've never seen him do the Southern strategy before this tournament. In fact, he's my son. I know he hasn't done it before. He's watched you and I do it, but he's never played it himself. Donte usually plays trains.
Yeah. I don't ever see him do cows either, really.
Yeah. So I've seen Donte build before, but not in the sort of stylized way that Eugene and I do. And I'm sitting in this game, I'm sitting right after him in turn order, and I'm watching him start to set up the game that I wanted to play. And it's just a sickening feeling for me because when he bought his first guy, he bought a builder, and I said, okay, well, I know now it's going to happen. When he put his building down there in the swamp, I know what's going to happen, and I'm out of that. And to borrow my friend Eugene's phrase, I'm already now sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to switch gears and do something different. And switching gears is, while a fun phrase to say, not what you want to be doing in the final of a competitive game. You want to have been able to pick the correct strategy right from the start and start implementing it.
And that's because he's going in front of you?
Yeah, he's going in front of me. He's just doing everything that I'm doing a turn better and a turn more efficiently. And he's also set up on the board. I mean, I'm over in the desert. That's not what you do. That's a later play. That's mid-game when you go over in the desert. You set up in the swamp to start. His first tile is exactly where it should be, like we talked about earlier. It's in the far right position on the swamp row. You know,
like we said, you should have bid more.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So Donte's starting to fire off his game. He's about to build his second building, and now we're going to see. So what is he up to? Okay. And I know where I would go with this, and Eugene, I know where you'd go, where the two of us would go with this, and I don't think Donte goes where we would go.
No.
And I do think this is a misplay, and this is the guy who wins the tournament. So,
which building is he playing right now?
This is 4B, I think it is.
The cowboy draw with the tax and the three movement. Yeah,
because it's a $2 tax building.
I think that's the best building in the game.
And the place for it, the place for it to cut to the chase is in the furthest right position down in the swamp hazard, and he puts it over there instead. And I think that's a mistake. It didn't cost him the game, obviously.
Yeah,
but I think it's a mistake.
So in a way, that should probably hurt you because anybody going there is now going to go to the left of it.
I'm
running over the desert.
Oh, yeah.
I am so pissed at him right now.
So now you collect no money, Scott.
He just hosed me. Yes. He hosed both of us.
Yeah.
I really think that was a misplay on a lot of levels, not the least of which because it prevented me from winning the game.
So as long as the desert tiles don't keep coming out, everybody's just going to run left.
Yeah. I even went left at some points.
Yeah.
I went left myself.
Right.
And paid the bank instead of paying Donte.
Yeah.
That's a sad state of affairs. All right.
It's also the final table. So money's tight. So this game, the most points on the score sheet for people buying hazards was 6 points. So only 2 hazards were bought for one person. So no one's buying hazards in a final game, and no one has the money to do it. So where the hazards are, they're going to stay there the whole game.
That is such an excellent point. The absence of that. What's the building we're looking at?
It is 4A.
As Antony's saying, if 4A is not in the game, the hazards that are on the board,
no one's spending 7 to buy a hazard.
They're going to stand.
Never early.
Yeah, they're going to stand. This is going to be a tight game the whole way. Yeah. And it combined with that, the fact that we had a heavy hazard, low TP flop to start the game, and it's going to be a brutal game where getting taxing buildings out early is going to be strongly to your advantage. And this is why I didn't want to go fourth, because the fourth guy's hosed on the tax building.
Could you have said that before we started bidding?
So it was the only, when we were bidding, it's the only thing I was thinking of. As long as I don't go fourth, I'm all right. I'll be all right.
Yeah, but look where Antony has his tax building. He's before Andrew, so he's going to collect.
Well, I put mine there.
He'll get his trickle of money.
Yeah, yes and no. Now, when they both set up that double tax there, now we're in the same situation as Donte and I are over in the desert, which is to say players are going to be a little bit motivated to go around the long way. It didn't play out that way so much, though, but a few times, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I eventually upgrade that green hand tax building to the 4B with the black, and then and it's perfect because I'm doing cows, and I'll just move into the cow market right after. So, and then Andrew destroys my game by going cows.
Andrew's having, by the way, if you notice, some tough luck on the
his
draw. Yeah, he just played 2 blacks for the $4. That's obviously probably not what you really want to be doing. You'd love to play the 2 whites in that scenario. He's just getting hosed on his draw a little bit. But I also think he's not. If you're the cow player, you want to try to seed your first 2 cows you buy into your first shuffle. Right. So he's already into his first shuffle now. He didn't time it quite right. Again, this player defeated me in this game. I mentioned that once again. But he didn't time it quite right. If I'm playing cows, I want to get my first 2 purchases.
Does he have a cow or not? Did he buy a cow yet?
Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 2 cows missing. So I think me and him.
No, I bought a blue.
Oh,
I bought the only blue.
I bought the other one. Yeah. So
there's 2 blue.
So he's into his first shuffle. He hasn't. What's the point?
And he's still got a blank.
What's the point of that? That doesn't. There's no advantage to that. You're pulling your deck too hard.
Okay.
Well, he's probably thinking I'm going to drop in 2 in Kansas City, so I don't care about my hand. I'll just sit up for the third delivery.
It really doesn't matter. I mean, what.
So he doesn't. He knows go through his deck another time. But I think his next go around, he's going to make sure he's about to buy cows actually right now.
I'm being super critical, but I would have tried to find a way to get that first purchase into that first discard.
Actually, no, he's not. He's going to buy people. I think this is when he's about to buy 2 cowboys.
Look at the top row in that swamp, by the way, now. So we've set up in a situation. This is the moment in the game where if I'm Antony, the red player, I am looking at 4th place.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing, Antony, that can save you right now, and you don't do it. You know what it is, right?
I know. I screwed up.
If you're watching this feed, look at the bottom of the board right now, and you can see a row of tiles: yellow, green, blue. We all have something to do. In other words, rather than go down through the swamp. The red player is going to be in trouble, really big trouble actually, because it's not just that. It's coming up through the canyon. It's yellow and green again. If you're the red player, what positive action are you going to take at the beginning of your loop every time around the board? It's a rondelle game. You're trying to build a board state where you have something positive to do, an efficient action. Red has got to get a tile in there somewhere.
And some building somewhere is down so that when he enters in, if he doesn't stop at the very first neutral building, he ends up somewhere where he can actually do something rather than just give people money and or do an auxiliary action.
And the horror continues because of the 2 neutral tiles that are available to him down south there, neither of them are feeding into the strategy that he wants to play. He's playing cows.
Yep.
And so the first tile is the train guy's tile. And then the second tile, the one at the end of the swamp, is buildings. And you do want to build a couple of buildings early, so that's okay. But toward the end of the game, if you're the cow guy, you're not stopping on the building space to spend a few dollars and get a point or two. You've got much, much more efficient actions. So red is not in a box yet, because there's an out if you would put something down in the swamp. But that opportunity is going to be shrinking away soon.
Yeah, I'm actually the next one to build because I'll go to Kansas City and then I end up building.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up upgrading because I'm only thinking about my Cowboys. And so I want to get my Cowboy building out. But I'm not thinking about how screwed I will be later in the game with that money. Oh, okay. And so I go and upgrade my black hand over the green hand tool.
This was a miss by you.
Yeah, it was a big mistake.
It really was, yeah.
I should have placed my cow market buyer down on the swampy
right.
area.
If you think about it, I mean, if you're somewhat new to the game and you're probably saying, well, why would I play down in the swamp? Because I'm going to have to pay the bank. All the other players are going to throw every blue tile that comes out at me. I'm going to have to pay the bank, all that. Well, look at the top row. You can pay your opponents anyway. Right. Paying the bank is better than paying your opponents.
Right. He's have to pay $3 if he runs through the yellow, green, blue gauntlet.
Yeah. And with no action. So it's the screaming play right here is to get somebody down in that swamp. And the hazard action allows you to throw a white card away for $2 and a certificate bump. That's actually really strong. It's still watching the game over. It's still available there for you, kid. Just gonna get it. You can still do it, man.
And so Andrew is gonna buy a cow here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what he only has one cowboy. So what does he buy? Because it's a bad buy. He's got to spend 6 for one red cow. I'm assuming
he has.
There it is.
No cowboys, right?
What did he? Wait,
he has one. He bought one.
Oh, so he has 2 cowboys. So. Yeah. It was what, a red for $3?
Red for $3, yeah.
Okay. Oh, the glare on this. Okay.
Yeah.
And now he still has 16 left, and that lets him buy the 2 more Cowboys.
So, okay.
Which, yeah.
Such a tight money game.
Yep. So I put another rock slide.
Right.
Out.
So that's all full. So they definitely have to go down through you and Andrew.
Yep. And then whenever I see a builder in the game, I will never put a worker out there. So I'll always put the engineer out.
Right.
Because I think the workers game can be destroyed if there's not enough out there.
That is definitely true.
I think the workers' strategy depends on being able to buy 1 or 2 guys and use its building power. Mm-hmm. The turn you buy the 2 guys, and if you're buying 1 builder a turn or there's none out there, I think the builder is going to fall behind.
Totally agree. The builder's got to ramp up early. Unlike any of the other strategies, it's got to be set up early.
And
it's the one. I'm going to interrupt, but it's the one roll I'm willing to drop 3 times in Kansas City to make work. I'm willing to take a -18 because the setup early is so important for the builder.
When I saw that Donte took a builder, and then you took a builder, I was like, 2 people are fighting for builders.
Oh yeah,
We're
host.
Your host, and I'm like, and I'm going to force Andrew to hopefully do a different strategy since I bought the early cowboy, and then he ends up going cows, and then there's somehow a bunch of builders show up, and it just goes downhill.
Well, the reason that the building game opened up is because I do switch gears. I just have this sinking sensation at this point of the game that I don't think I can win by being builder after Donte. It's clear what he's doing. He's setting up Southern strategy. He's not doing it quite right, I think, but it's good enough. So I didn't want to sit after him the whole game and just lose. I've seen that too often. So I'm going to switch to trains.
Oh, look, he buys both cowboys. He didn't even think about it.
Oh, he bought a hazard. He's just, I'm so angry.
No, he's not buying it. He's getting the head bonus. He's got 4 cowboys, so he gets a free hazard.
He gets 4th cowboy.
And he picks
yeah.
I'm so angry. Look at, you see, I made a face to Donte just now. I'm so angry with him because he played in the desert row, and now neither of us are going to get paid the whole game. Good grief.
Oh wait, he just removed a desert hazard. Oh, okay.
Because of the
so now everybody's just going to run left.
Yeah.
Up the desert.
Where did he took? Okay, yeah, he took from the desert.
Yeah.
And Donte now springs for the double builder. Okay, so here we go. So
Yep.
now this is a wonderful, wonderful way to play this game. He's going to get an extra. The discount on the build is nice. You get to build for half price, but the really important thing is that you get an extra action. You get to
an extra build action.
Yeah.
So just so that everyone sees, he bought the 4-level building.
Yes.
And he put it down there.
Yes.
The only reason why he buys that is because the 10B building, the one that lets you build over the 4B
Yes.
with 4 guys, is the 8 value one. That's the only reason why he would play that. He doesn't care if it was,
He built 6B just to
if it was 6A, he doesn't
just to
care.
lever up to something
so
else.
he can upgrade over
right.
it and get his engine going.
He's doing this so Eugene, talk about this. He's doing this so slowly though. He needs to have 2 tiles in there right now, not 1 in the bottom swamp.
Well, I mean, it would be better if he had 2 in there. So I think his second build should have been down in the swamp. So next to where he just built.
Yes.
So if you can have 2 buildings down there, one of which allows you to bounce to the other one, even though you pay the money for the running over the water hazards. You get this excellent synergy because both of those risk action buildings down low allow you to dump ones for a certificate bump and $2. And so doing that twice in a row, you get on that move, you get 2 certificate bumps and $4.
That's great.
Yep.
And 2 ones out of your hand.
Yes, and you knock off 2 ones. And so it's definitely a reasonable way of getting your hand value up when you deliver to Kansas City without buying cows.
And even though you're paying the bank, you're able to relax now. You don't have to worry about whatever others are doing on that top row. You don't have to worry if people are setting up tax buildings up there. You don't care. You're doing your own thing.
Right.
Oh my God.
But it works a whole lot better if you've got the 2 buildings.
Yes.
Now, if somebody else puts one of the buildings next to yours, then it is much less efficient.
So if you play the game the way our game group does right now, my eyes as I'm watching the video are just fixated on that open space. Are we going to let Donte have that second swamp space? Because if we do, he's going to be in a really strong position. The difficult thing is, if you go in there yourself, it really doesn't need to be just to block him. Like many Euro games, if you quote unquote take one for the team, often your game goes down along with the guy you're targeting. You have to figure out a way to play on that other swamp space and still feed what you're doing in the game. And none of us evidently figured it out because we let him have it.
So when he placed it down there, I know I'm the next one into build.
Yeah.
When he placed it down there, I look up at my opponents and I do the look like, all right, we know we can't get 2 down there. But I'm telling myself, because my next action is to build right here, and so I'm
So-
only thinking about myself. I know I'm fourth. I'm already starting out slow. I'm really angry that Andrew bought Cowboys, so I say someone else put a building down there. So I just go and upgrade my building, hoping that who would be after me? Because you guys are all going in now.
Yeah,
so Andrew would be the
after
next
you.
one to build.
Right.
Andrew bumps his train for 1 instead, and I think Donte then gets his free station master. Right, yeah, and then
So you're looking for Andrew to
put a building down there.
because he's
And I'm gonna be-
he's in a stronger position than you. It's his job, is the way you're looking at it.
Yeah, I'm screwed right now because I got no buildings down there. I should have put a building down there, but I was only thinking about myself.
You should have, not because it was your job to take one for the team, because it clearly wasn't. You're having a tough start, but it was to your advantage to do so, because
Then
you
you'll
would have
have
an
something to do when you're down.
Yeah.
Yes, so it was good and bad. It was like
action. I mean, your cow
make a
building.
decision.
He wants his cow building down there, right?
Right,
Something, you know?
right.
I should have put it down there.
You come in there with money every time. It's okay.
Yeah, that's better than the normal cow building.
Yeah,
You get your cow out of the way, and you don't really care what happens when you end up at the normal cow building.
also we're moving 4 to start out the game, probably
Yeah.
until you get your first disc out.
Yeah.
So I can't even get to the building spot. I have to stop the
Right.
first auxiliary neutral building, or I have to go down the other way.
Right.
But the hazards will probably stop me and slow up my movement. So Donte did buildings this game, and so I'm thinking he's never going to get to 10 anytime soon. The only way he's getting to 10 is maybe if he gets a station master and the perfect hand of 7 and maybe some certificates. So he's going to be
When you're saying
moving
get to 10, you're talking about having a
hand size.
a hand size of,
Yeah.
or a hand value of 10,
Of
when
10.
you,
To
yeah,
drop into Albuquerque.
And so
which
he's
is a
gonna-
magic number in this
He
game.
sets up his game, so he's going to go to the swamp and do his 2 buildings down there, but he's only moving 4. And if all 4 hazards or even 3 are out, he has to move to the neutral space for 1.
Right.
And then if there's 3 blue hazards there, he's spending his first action to either use the first building or go down on the hazards and just to take an auxiliary action, which is going to slow him the whole game. And no one's buying hazards, so I'm thinking, okay, this is okay.
So here's your moment of truth.
Yeah, this is a
time
major,
to build.
yeah, this is a major misplay again.
Do
Yep.
it.
I'm only thinking
Do
about
it.
myself, and I want to draw my Cowboys, so I get my Cowboy building out. I'm also
No,
I also make great money
I
though.
saw that. I
do
saw
it.
that. I said, "What are you going to do on the low track from here on out?"
I wasn't looking. Okay.
If for those who watch this video to the end, you will see at the very end of this game the consequences of that action just there, which is on Antony's last pass through the loop, and he's already out of the game.
Yeah.
But you are seeing just a total dismay for a player who has nothing to do. He ended up taking a neutral action, a dead action on one of the hazard spaces on his final trip around. It's just devastating.
Yeah. You have all your money, but then you just have to give it to everybody else and get to do nothing.
Yeah.
And this is why the swamp area is so good. Coming out of Kansas City, you have all the money from your
You're
hand
going to have
delivery.
as much money as you're going
And
to
so
have.
people were thinking, oh, those hazards are going to make me lose my money. But the hazards will be probably $4 or $5 tops. You're going to go on your building down there, get 2 back right away when you throw 1 away, plus whatever the building does for you. You'll make the money back. You'll be starting out with the money you had from your delivery, and you're fine. So clearly I need to place down there.
Why is Andrew crawling along taking a train bump there? What was that? He needed the cert bump
That was a bad play because now Donte gets Donte went right in and got that cert.
Yeah.
I think that you're giving up too much pace to take any action that's that inefficient. I mean, I'm sure Andrew had a reason. He was probably trying to set up a 10 delivery or something. He needed that cert bump, I guess, but
You actually have an action. You actually have the chance right now to place
Yes.
your build. You have a
Yes.
chance right now.
Yes,
They both
it's your
stopped.
turn.
Donte did not place a building down there. He's giving his opponents
Right.
another chance to buy a building.
okay. So
And place it down there.
So let me tell you what I'm thinking about.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh, what is happening?
I played Dante's game. I played the Southern Strategy all through the heats, all 3 heats.
Yeah.
And in the 3rd heat, I played against a player who knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Henry Allen, who's a wonderful Eurogamer, a great player. And Henry and I had a talk before the game about how to get in the Southern Strategy guy's way.
Yeah.
And so in that heat game, I'm set up like Donte is.
Yeah.
And so Henry comes in and Henry drops in that other space.
Uh-huh.
It
You're
worked.
talking about down low
Down
in the
low,
swamp?
Yeah. So so that glaring open space that you're going to see the yellow player fill in a second.
Yeah.
And that none of us seem to be willing to take the bite and put something.
What are you doing, man? It wasn't just me. It was you
not
too.
just you. It was not just you. But in that heat, when Henry did that, it cost me the game. I ended up losing that game by 3 or 4 points, maybe even 4 or 5 points, because I wasn't able to set up that Southern engine like you want. So it was effective in stopping the builder, but Henry Allen's game was destroyed when he did that. I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you that. He basically built a building in a spot that he would never use.
Right.
He just couldn't figure out a way to make that work into his game. And I just have that fresh in my mind, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not gonna be the one who does it.
You felt like you would be taking the hit for the team.
Yeah, because I have something in the top row that works for me already. I'm going to be taking that action every time.
Yeah.
So I don't.
That's cow market.
The draw your hand and bounce 3.
Yeah, it's a toll. Yeah, the
Okay.
one I played.
I'm okay. I'm okay going the top row. It's not like I'm in Antony's spot where.
But the building you just built just now on your turn was what?
Cow market, and I put it up.
Right.
Why did you put it up there?
Right, but why go there?
Okay, what I'm thinking there is I'm looking toward the later part of the game, and I'm looking at that row of taxing buildings with blue and red up in the canyon, and the row of hazards up in the canyon. And I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I need some sort of action to take right before then,
so that you empty your
so I can empty
pay all your money.
Yes, so I can get my money out, do something positive.
Yeah.
But even more than dumping my money out, whenever I put my board state together, if I'm playing well, I'm trying to make sure I have a useful action, all the way around the loop. And so I got to get something close to those 2 guys up north so that I can land on it, do it, and then with enough movement points, get past all that. So if you count it out, I'm going to go take my cow action and then go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I have to eat it and pay the other guys, but then I get to another. So that's what I'm thinking.
Understood.
It didn't work great.
And let me say something about that. So you're putting a cow market building there.
Yeah.
You're not playing cows.
No.
You're not going to have money for that.
Well,
you have engineers and builders right now. You already passed the building space.
I'm doing trains, as you can see. I bought
also notice the TP building is right after those tolls. So I think, and that got used a lot later in the game. We all had so much money off the TPs.
Yeah.
That we could do anything. So I think you should put your cow market down low in the swamp. You're not. You have one cowboy. You can buy a brown cow, but you're not going to do that. You're doing engineers. So you want to use the engineer space, which is right before the canyon hazards, and get your train going. Instead, you let yellow get in there.
I think,
and then you let yellow get 2 buildings down there, and you screwed us all.
It's on me. Okay, so boom, there it is.
There you go.
I was standing behind Antony and Andrew most of the game, and around this point in the game, I was standing next to Chris Wilds, and our jaws were just dropping in this 10-minute sequence when we saw Donte drop his first yellow building in the swamp, and then nobody else did anything.
Yeah.
Antony had his shot.
The table
walks away from it. Scott had his shot. He walked away from it. And Chris and I are just staring at each other, thinking, what is wrong with you people? Yeah. And then here it goes. Now that he has his 2 yellow buildings next to each other, the spots are reserved, and now he gets to upgrade if he wants to.
So, in my defense,
okay, here we go.
In my defense, in addition to the fact that I'd seen another player lose the game by taking one for the team on that, I didn't think Donte was going to do it well enough to have it be so game winning. So because he's not doing it right. He's making mistakes in the sequence of the way you put the buildings out to play this at its most efficient. I know that you're looking at the board state now and you're saying, well, he's got it about where he wants it, but it's not. He's taking too long. He's putting tiles where they don't need to be, and he's not got things set up for the most possibly efficient upgrades.
Except if you look at where everything is, you'll see that. So he has 3 builders. People that play builder strategy know that you want to get a 4th builder so you can get a super build out, right?
Yeah.
So you can do an extra building action at $1 per. Okay. And if you are able to move your train some, one of the things that people like to do is move their train, get a station master, and remove the fourth guy so that the next time you go build, you build your fourth guy again, and then you get another build.
And as you see, Donte did that. He dropped that builder, that fourth builder.
And the other part is that we were looking at it is that you guys haven't even hit the cow market the first time. You're not even at the halfway point.
True.
And he's got all these buildings there,
Yeah.
all ready to upgrade.
There's already 4 yellow tiles on the board.
He's already got all these, and you haven't even hit the halfway point. And we're thinking, oh my God,
Yellow, it's over.
he can do all these upgrades, and you won't be able to stop him.
Hey, look at his money. He's got 4 buildings out. He's got 3 builders.
Yeah.
He's already got a station master. He stole that one.
Yeah.
And he's got so much money to do anything because he's already got all his taxing buildings out possible. He's set up perfectly. He doesn't need to rush to get his 10B building out, but he should because it's really good.
Yeah.
Also, my action I just did.
You went and bought the strongest of the 5 station masters.
Yeah,
So
this is more of my where I lost, but I thought it would be good since it's a finals, it's a tight game. I bought that one engineer instead of a 4th cowboy because I told myself I'm going to get the best station master, which is the one that scores you a point per worker you have on your board.
Right.
And I'm telling myself it's going to be at least 8 points. It already starts out as 3 with the 3 you start on your board, and I'm like I'm going to probably fill up at least 1 row of guys.
Sure.
So I'll get like 9 points, and I end up getting like 8.
Yeah.
But
I think that was a very strong play. Actually, that's the right play.
Yeah.
You managed to do it without having to buy a bunch of engineers that you weren't going to use. You bought one, you threw them back on there. You got to the space using the auxiliary action. I think on your last play. Did you get there by paying $1 to move your train one in addition to?
Yeah, that's where I take off my first disc and do that. I also since I'm doing Cowboys, I took that early engineer because now I don't have to pay money for X's when I show my hand in Kansas City. So I think I passed 4 of the X's, so I'm saving those $4 now the rest of the game, which I thought would be a good play.
That was a good sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, of a worker.
Now I'm still in front of everybody on the trains. I'm still a threat to go get more station masters if no one else wants to compete. So that's something I try for.
Let me now go to something that I started to talk about real early, and then I caught myself because I wanted to wait until we see the setup. So this is a cow game on the face of it. I know that the builder's going to end up winning, and it is a strong setup for the builder to be sure, because 8B and 10B are a really, really sweet combo. But this is a cow game with 2A and 4B in the game. This is a cow game, and that's when you see that on the flop, you need to have a really good reason why you're not going to play cows when those two are in the game, because that really sets you up well. But let me quibble with the way Andrew and Antony have set up their 4B building. So, sure, it's a really effective place for a taxing building, as we talked about earlier, because you're sitting there in the canyon, you're going to get the money or cause people to spend money otherwise before they buy cows and heads. But then again, as it plays out, it's Antony and Andrew who are buying cows. Me and Donte not buying a lot of cows. Donte needs to buy heads. I don't even know what I'm doing. I've already lost, so I'm just going around the loop and taking random actions at this point. But joking aside, if I'm a cow player, I actually want that 4B building closer to the end of the loop. It's a nice tax building, but it's actually an even better building for feeding my own game. And so maybe I give up, taxing people a couple bucks, which is good and which is strong. But if those buildings are close enough that you can spring from them into Kansas City, in other words, if they were on the further side of the cow market there,
right, it allows you basically to set your hand right before you go into Kansas City. Yeah,
and as the cow player, your points are going to come from cows and deliveries, and that's where I want that building.
Yep.
And I was playing I had 2 heats with a guy named Frank Denoff in the heats, and he set up his building when I think that was in the game both times, and he set that up there at the end of the board, and I didn't need to be told how good that was, But one thing he mentioned to me when we were playing was, the group think in my group is that one guy gets in the space on the board you're looking at right now, and the space between the cow market and the head market. Mm-hmm. He says in his game group, one guy does cows and sets up 4B on one of the spaces in between. The other guy sets up on the other space in between.
Right.
So they're still hosing everybody. You do have to, when you go through, you have to decide who to pay.
Pick which guy.
Pick which guy you're going to pay.
But you're going to pay.
So you're good. People are going to pay. You're happy, and if you're the cow guy, you're set up for really, really efficient deliveries into Kansas City. You're going to get to draw the hand one last time. The problem with the way they've got it set up now is they are springing off that into 2 more actions, at least 1 more action, maybe 2 more actions. So that is, they get to craft their hand, but then they're going to take 2 actions where they have to draw a blind card. And it's going to set them up in Kansas City with an unknown hand rather than the known hand you'd have if you had 4B as your last spring.
I think the only mitigator for that, what you just said, because normally I completely agree with you, it could be that they also get to set their hand to make sure they get a black 2 because they can buy a cow before they go into Kansas City.
Agreed.
So,
but I just think that the $2 is not as impactful as what your end of game points are going to be for really impactful deliveries at the end.
Yeah, when I do 4B, I almost always put it right near the end.
Yeah.
Dante's sitting so comfy right now. Like, he knows he's won the game because here's why.
Well, he's the only one.
He just popped out his phone and was texting someone. That's how he knows.
That's great.
And so, while you guys were talking, he he managed to get like 3 or 2 station masters in this game because he just played the 8 level 10B building. He just upgraded it.
Yeah.
But he did it so perfect with the station masters. He would time it so that he would take off his guy. Mm-hmm. Go into the station master with the builder.
Remove his fourth.
Yes, remove his fourth builder. And then he just bought the other builder, so he got to use his discount buy a building for half off. And so he just bought the best building in the game for the builder strategy right there. And so now he ends up getting the next station master, I think, which will take off his 4th builder again. So he'll keep getting station masters and buying big buildings for half price.
And so he's making it's such a wonderful way to play the game. And you'll notice, he's making all this run without ever buying any engineers. I maybe we've all done this. I have rang the bell, so to speak. That's our little shorthand expression for when you get your train all the way around the corner and all the way to the space that gets you 9 points at the very end. We say we ring the bell. Then I have rung the bell without ever buying an engineer, just by using the building combo of 8B and 10B. It's really actually not that hard to pull off because you're getting 8 spaces of train movement each time around the rondel.
Right. 10B is what we call the 444 because you get $4, you get to move your train up 4 spaces, and you get to move your worker up to 4 spaces and do it again. And so if you combine it with the 8B, which is basically a copy building, and you can stick them next to each other, which Donte has not done yet. But if you can,
it's coming.
He eventually will.
You basically get $8. You move your train up 8 spaces, which is a mile, and then you get to move forward and do something else.
It's really wonderful. In addition to throwing off a couple ones and getting some certificate bumps because you do it in the swamp. It's so good. We failed by not stopping that. I failed by not doing that. That's what I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to play.
It was there.
I know. So another thing, just a general strategy point. The magic number, if you follow me, the magic number when you're moving your train on the top row there is 4 because 4 spaces gets you to each.
From station house to station house.
And so having 10B out early is really, really nice for that. You're going to be able to just chug right along and pick those off one at a time. And then when you make the turn and come down the home stretch, the magic number becomes 5.
Correct.
5 is a little awkward because the 4 is not 5. So 10B is not as effective on that. You're going to probably end up, like Eugene was saying, you're going to be taking 8 bumps instead. And you'll have some decisions about maybe skipping a station or 2 because the game's probably just not going to be long enough for you to diddle along and hit them all usually, since you're only going to be getting 1 for each loop. Whereas with if you're the true train guy and you have 5 engineers, with the magic number being 5 on the far stretch, you'll have 2 chances to hit that 5 in every loop around the rondel.
Oh my gosh! I put more cows out in the And Andrew's just shaking his head like, I'll be there first.
Yeah.
They're mine.
The cow market has been
my
obliterated.
God.
Andrew and Auntie are buying up all the cows, and I even bought a cow or two in this game. I don't have my score sheet handy. How many points did I end up with cows at the end?
You ended up with
38.
You ended up
cows.
with 8 cow
Oh,
points.
cows.
8 cow points. So that was a
Yeah.
blue and I think I bought a blue and a red, and then maybe a brown, something like that.
Probably.
Let me say something just for people that like to play cows. In my semifinal game, Shadow had 4 cowboys, and I had 5. I think the magic number when you're playing cows and you have the 2 cowboy buildings in the game, the magic number is 5 and 6.
Yes.
5 because you late game when you're just buying points, you can use 5 of them and spend $8 to buy 2 brown cows, which is actually the most points you can get.
That's so efficient.
Yes, it's like $8 for at most
On the
10
average,
points.
At worst, 6
At least
points.
8, at least 6.
At
but
worst,
the
6
most you can be
points.
is 10,
Yeah.
and that's for one of the cow markets. There's 2 in the game now, and so the next one, if you don't want to put so many brown cows in your deck because you maybe want still more of a variety, you have 6 now or 5. You can do any other combination. You can do 4, to buy a purple cow for like 7 points, and then you still have 2 left over, which lets you buy a 3 value for $3, which is at least that could be 10 points as well if you buy a $3 blue and a 7-point purple with the 6, and it's just great.
Right. You almost always want to max out whichever track of workers that you're hiring.
The only way
give you so much power.
And this is what Andrew did, and it's what I wanted to do, but then he joined me and did better. And so both cow market buildings are in the game, and so his final score cows were, it was 53, and he did it just great.
I want to talk more about that 53 number later, but I'll save it for later in the recording. It is He played a very strong game, though, I should say.
Well, you guys finally triggered the cow market.
Yeah.
So maybe you're about the halfway point.
Yeah.
And if you look at the board, you look low at the beginning of a loop, and all you can see are yellow buildings.
Yeah.
And a couple green ones.
It's a great point. If you're walking, Eugene, if you're walking into the game right now and look at this, you're thinking yellow's in a good spot. Yellow's set up early. I didn't feel like it when I was playing the game, but when I'm watching it now, I can see it. He set up better than I gave him credit for, probably. I still think the play in the canyon's a mistake. I'm sorry, the play in the desert. I don't think that's the right tile there, but let's take a moment while we have when I go back and watch this video, I think that there's a lot to talk about early. There's a lot of really key decisions that kind of shape the game. We're about halfway through now, and everybody is kind of on their path. Okay, right? So you see that I'm the player in the top left. I'm at 5 engineers. So you know what I'm doing. I'm going to be running that train, trying to get my points that way. Auntie and Andrew are fighting for cows. They both have 4 cowboys at this point. Everybody knows what they're doing. Bottom left player's Donte. He's got his 4 built. We were all set. All right, we're all set up. We've made the decisions about how the game's going to be played, and now we just have to execute and hope that the decisions we made in that setup. If you've seen the video there, I'm counting how many spaces that Antony has to take before he gets a positive action.
Look at the board right now. Red is really screwed. I see I upgraded my only 1 building, so I have 1 place on that whole board except for neutral spaces. So
yeah,
I am.
You're in big trouble. Sorry for the camera shake there, by the way. That was the camera's on a nearby table, and somebody bumped the table. There. It happens a couple times.
Let me say something else. So I'm doing cowboys, and I need all that money at the end because the cow market's at the end, and I have no buildings up front or in the middle. So I'm spending all the money I make from my great hand.
Yeah.
I'm just giving it to my opponents and to the hazards. And so once I get all the way to my building, every time I ended up with like $6, which was my decision was either buy another cowboy or buy another cow. And at that point, I'm like, I've lost so much. I just got to think about points. So I stopped buying people.
Yeah.
I was at 4, and the number I want to be at is 5. So I started buying cows, and my hand was not as good because I had duplicates. and then I had no money.
We're halfway through the game, but to my eye, this is clearly an unwinnable game now for the red player. He's out of it.
Yeah, because if from when he starts the loop, he hits a neutral building, he has to pay $3 at least to get to this next neutral building.
And I'm not buying buildings anymore.
Right. Then he has to pay at least $3 more to run up the left where the deserts are, either run over buildings or the deserts. So he has to pay $6 to other players or to the bank before he even gets to a clear area.
And he's got to take a TP now. You don't want to have to do anything in the game, right? So he's got to take a TP now. And right now the TPs are good, but they won't stay good.
Yeah. Another thing about what Donte, the yellow player, is doing with that 4-4-4 building, he's almost doing like two strategies now. He not only has all the points and buildings as possible, but he will now actually move his train just as much as green is, who's playing engineers. Yellow will end up getting points not only in buildings, but he'll get a good amount of points on the track where you deliver your train and you get points.
Station houses.
The station houses, yeah, because that 4-4-4, he's going to get 8 train bumps because he duplicates the building. And so he'll be just as far as green is around the end of the game.
I want to point out something real quick. On that last play by yellow, just to show how a little thing, but he sees it, he's getting it. You'll notice he took a dead action. He took an action on the swamp. And the temptation was probably strong to stop on that first tile and just get something better than an empty single auxiliary action. But you saw he went 1, 2, 3, 4 around the swamp and took that dead auxiliary action. It's because he saw that I was going in next and the blue swamp tile was out, and so that was going to be placed down. So if he took that suboptimal but not totally empty first tile action where he bumps his train and gets a cert bump, which is not terrible, then he's going to have to take another
$2 hit.
He's going to have to
another
take
dollar.
He's going to have to take a dead action on his next turn, which is down in the swamp. So he just took the dead action right up front. And so he set up for a better turn next turn. It was a really sharp play. It's a little thing, but you could miss that and just not see that blue tile coming out. Of course, I was going to put it out, right?
So now you've got your 5 engineers. Anytime there's two move the train spots, right? So you're going to use each of those.
Yeah,
whenever you can, Scott.
My game is so sad. I don't know if there's much to talk about. I have a pretty straightforward game at this point. Like I said, we're all set up. We're all going to do. We're all going to do what we're going to do. So my game's going to be trained now. I got 5 engineers, so I know the game well enough to know that I'm going to be able to ring the bell as long as I don't dick her around too much. Ringing the bell is strong. It's roughly 30-point play. If you fill in all
hit most of the stations along the way.
Yeah, and so I thought, that's possibly competitive. I didn't think it was going to be good enough. I mean, I didn't feel like I had a chance to win at this point in the game already, but maybe a glimmer if I don't know, if I got lucky or if I was misunderstanding how strong the other players were doing. But I figured I'm set up now for the train, and that's what I'm going to do. I got to hit the first tile every time around the board now, and I got to hit the other one, the one that moves your train 5 spaces now for me. I wasn't too. This would end up being a mistake, point-wise later, but I wasn't too keyed up on getting the 6th engineer. I didn't feel like there's any rush on that because 5 is what you need. 5 is the magic number. It's because it's 5 spaces between each. And then on the very last, when you want to ring the bell itself, you need 6 spaces. Small thing. But there's always some way to do it. Like I ended up paying $1 to move my train 1 space for the extra space. That's what I was doing. I didn't compete real hard for the Station Masters. You see Donte still playing that game.
Notice. Let me just interrupt for a moment. Notice Donte figured out exactly what he needed to move. So on his turn now, he got to do his 4-4-4 action and moved it just enough to get a Station Master tile and dump his 4th builder, which we know that he's going to build right back the next time he gets a chance. And there's 2 builders up there, and when he does it, he's going to be able to do another super build, meaning do an improvement for $1 per craftsman he uses.
Let me say something. The 4-4 building, we keep talking about how good it is. Here's another reason why it's so good. If you notice when you're bumping your train, if you're playing engineer strategy and you're buying station masters, you have to give up that guy, right?
Yeah.
The key number is 4 movements to get into the next station master for each one. Donte does not have to give up any guys because he's not playing engineers. His building gives him 4 bumps every time. So he doesn't have to give up a guy like the green player would in this game, where if he wants to buy a head or a station master, he would have to give up a guy, and then he would have maybe 3 left over or 2, so he can't get into his next play. Donte can move into 4 just off his building, give up his builder guy, and then just keep buying that one builder, get the half price off, and buy the head, station master.
You'll notice on my last play on green that I eschewed the station master there. I just know the flow of the game well enough to know that I just don't have time to stop that many times. I figured I would stop on the last one because it's a black disc and I could get a black disc off. But I was really thinking I don't think I have time to make even one extra stop for that other one. And I was right. The way the game played out, I had exactly enough time to ring the bell and
get as much points as possible.
Complete my so-called strategy. So anyway. But that did leave points behind for others. The station master I took it should have been good, but I didn't make it work. Oh well.
The other thing to notice that if you're doing engineer strategy like Scott is doing, the 5A building, if it's in the game, is something you definitely want to build up to. It's a 3-level building.
Sure.
But it allows you both to get a discount on purchasing workers, but it's one more spot where you get to move your train, and so that having a third, if that's in the game, doing engineer strategy is very, very viable because you have 3 places to move however many spots your engineers are.
I agree with you. 5A is stronger. The 5 tile is the engineer's tile in general, and so in the game we're playing 5B is in. It's not as strong as 5A. You're right, but 5B is okay. I was able to use it a couple times over the course of the game for cert bumps and money. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add another topic to this conversation. Let's talk about objective cards, because no one has taken a single objective card this game. I have seen games where someone has scored 20 and they win the game and not by any people. Yeah. But I'll just start off saying that I can never get myself to take an objective card early over that one cert bump. That cert bump is always the one more I need to get that 10 or 12 hand. I always think of objective cards as end of game. If I've completed them, sure, I think that 5-point or 4-point card is better than that cert bump.
So I totally disagree with you about that.
Okay.
No, but
I think Eugene agrees with me on this one. Maybe at the end of the game, early.
I don't mean that I'm right. It really has to do with the way that you play. So I don't. This game is an outlier in some ways and very typical in others. I think this game is an outlier in the lack of objective card taking that you're seeing so far.
True.
I think that the way we all normally play the game is I think we all value objective cards pretty highly. It's a great source of victory points. It just in this particular game, for whatever reason, it just wasn't quite right. I mean, if you look at the ones that are sitting out there, some of those seem pretty good. Except that 3 of the 4 have hazard on them, and this isn't quite a hazard buying game. But
right.
But you can get one. So if I'm Andrew or Antony, I'm looking at the 5 with the hazard on it. If I'm me, I'm looking at I'm going to be dropping discs pretty soon. So I'm looking at it's upside down, but the one next to left would be mine, and then anybody can get a couple TPs and drop a disc. I mean, they're all very doable. It's good points. I will say this: because of the nature of the tile where you grab an objective card, if you're going to use that as a way of getting your objective card, the other way to get them is to on your deliveries, where you're compelled to take one. But if you want to make an objective card part of your strategy, it's a nice coincidence if you're also the engineer guy, because they exist on the same tile, and that action becomes more efficient. And I'm always a little sad if I think objective cards are great, and it's well worth a stop to get 3 or 5 points. But I'm always a little sad if I do it and I'm moving my train 1 space. We're looking at that very first tile in the loop in this current game. So, but I think we probably underutilized objective cards. That's a good point.
I think they favor people that are playing cows and engineers most. I think most of the objective cards in that deck either have some type of cow card on it or, maybe the TP or the station master delivery.
Oh, I don't know. I think aren't they balanced?
I think they're relatively balanced.
But they're not balanced for any particular game, of course.
No.
Yeah.
Like this particular game, because 3 of them have hazards on it, they're not very attractive.
$7 for a hazard is a little steep until the end of the game usually.
Yeah.
It's such a tight money game that the way the game started because of the number of hazards out, it was just hard to think about spending that $7 like that way. In my semifinal, I had a player, the least experienced player of the 4, and that player bought a hazard on their first play. They dropped a pair. This is the first play of the game. They dropped a pair for $4 and then bought a hazard. That was
You've lost.
Yeah, that's the end of their game. I being a little flip there, but
there goes the money to buy your person.
That's not how you start the game. You can't do that. Let's so we're at the part of the game where we're kind of running our engines and just going around and trying to. It's a good time to step back maybe because I put off a sort of round the horn thing of introductions and maybe some really more general comments about strategy for the game rather than specific to the screen we're looking at. Because we got another hour to go and and I think there was a whole lot to talk about in the first hour, and then the second half there's some things I do want to. I'm sure we all want to loop back to as we see it happen. But in the meantime, let's pull back just a little bit and introduce ourselves a little bit. I didn't want to start that way because there's good action right from the beginning. But let's start with Eugene. This is Eugene Yee. Introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your gaming history and then also your history with this particular game.
So I've probably been gaming maybe about 10 years or so which is relatively new in terms of people that have been playing war games and board games forever and ever. So, but I got into the hobby. Some friends of mine that I used to play trivia with, they told me about this notion about playing board games, and they introduced me to this organization called GCOM, which is Games Club of Maryland, which is a loose volunteer organization of lots of like-minded people. Several of them host their own local either weekly or bi-weekly gaming events where they just allow people to gather and just play games for several hours. And so I've met a lot of people doing that. And it's a wonderful organization. It's on the web. So if you look up Games Club of Maryland and you're interested in either entering into the hobby or finding places to play, it's as good a place as I've ever seen in terms of finding sites. So the games that I like are mostly worker placement games like Stone Age, Egizia, Lords of Waterdeep, Great Western Trail. When it came out, I guess what's been about 2 years ago, I've taken quite a shine to it. It's actually one of my favorite games, and I find it endlessly replayable. There's always something to examine or investigate or try a new strategy. So I just like this game a whole lot, and so I'm happy to contribute to the advancement of the game any way I can.
Oh, so let me, before I move on to Antony, I'll say a couple nice things to you.
I don't know why.
I mean, Eugene and I are fierce competitors, and I think both of us really enjoy playing each other, and we both try to win, and it's always a good contest. But not just the two of us, but my whole family. And I want to second some of the things you said about GCOM. It's just a really great organization. I see the alternatives in other parts of the country seem to be, not that there's anything wrong with this, but it tends to be like you on meetup.com and you go to a bar or something and play some games.
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But for the kind of gaming that we like to do, which is maybe a little more serious, a little more concentrating and trying to really, really learn games well and try to get good at them, that's the bar meetup environment is probably not the best venue for that. So the GCOM scenario where people open up their homes, that's really, really nice.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, I've been to other places in the country. I've been to Arizona and been to Florida, and it hasn't quite evolved. There's certainly people that want to play games and they want to get together, and so. But the usual venue is at a restaurant or a bar or something, and it seems to be from that level seems to be the logical thing to do. Let's meet at a public place.
Sure.
Hey, let's do it where there's food so you can eat and then go ahead and play games for a couple hours. And so there's various restaurants that will allow people to do that, whether it's a Panera Bread or
Barway, Wegmans grocery store.
Yes, Wegmans grocery stores, certain places like that will allow you to. This was one of the first areas I've seen, however, where the concept of people actually hosting in their homes and will actually either say, hey, let's all go out for pizza or order out for pizza or Chinese food or something. That's one level. But then even beyond that, there are various hosts in the area that will actually cook and provide the meal themselves. And you can just show up and they ask nothing of you. You may want to do an occasional donation. But this area is one of the few places I've seen that actually does that on a regular basis. And so I think it's a wonderful model.
So let me tell you, tell the listeners, for those that are interested, I met you through GCOM.
Yep.
We started playing, even though we probably didn't know each other too well. We probably started playing at Jim and Jeff's house at White Marsh, GCOM White Marsh. We might have run into each other down at PressCon, which is where I met a lot of the White Marsh people down in Charlottesville. But we weren't like really dedicated with each other playing a lot. And one of my earliest memories of playing a game with you was, I think it was 2014 WBC, and we had both made the quarterfinals of Stone Age.
Oh yes.
So this is a story to illustrate what a good guy Eugene is, and how generous he is as a fellow gamer, because Stone Age is a game you love, a game you take seriously.
Yep.
And a lot of people think of it as just a dice chucking game. It's not. I mean, the people who are good at that game somehow manage, despite all the dice chucking, to end up at the top of the rankings in these tournaments over and over and over again. It's the same faces you see. So there's something going on in that game. And so I ran into you. So we were sitting around waiting for Pete. Is Pete Stein?
Staub.
Pete Staub. Yeah. Pete Staub used to run the tournament.
GM.
And we're just kind of shooting the shit a little bit before the tournament and waiting for him to get the table set up and the random seating and all together. And I recognized you, but we weren't like buddies then. But we knew each other. I mean, we played, but we weren't like buddies. And so I think I asked you, so how do you win this game? Okay. And so Eugene, for like 10 minutes, he just kind of like talked to me about this is how you can play this game. And these are the things you need to be thinking about. I mean, the eye-opening moment for most people who are learning that particular game, Stone Age, is understanding that it's an economy of pips. And pips are how you should view the relative, value of actions when you take them. And so, I was just playing the game as a roll the dice and do stuff and score points game, but you were looking at it in a smarter way. And so you spent those 10 minutes telling me how to play, and then we got seated at the same quarterfinal table, and you were on my left hand, unfortunately, and I just went right to the business of implementing all that stuff. And I knocked you out of it. I had no business beating you in that game.
This year where
this was
you, Dave Brody, and Scott Fenn in the final? It
was me, Dave Brody, Scott Fenn, and Dominic won it. I ended up second. That was the first of my many second place finishes in that game. That's 2014. Yeah. So that's kind of where we started to get a little bit closer then, and then from that, I mean, I really appreciated that actually, and that made a real impression on me. Joking aside. Yeah. So after that. I think that was probably the point at which I really made an effort, and my family made an effort to get to know you better at the game group we both attended. And it ended up we had a strong overlap in the kind of games we like, and actually beyond that, probably your taste in games. Although not totally. There's some things Eugene likes Power Grid and some weird awful games like Raw the Dice Game and stuff.
Yeah, and you're one of these Netrunner clowns.
Yeah. But that being said, with a few outliers, we have a lot of overlap in the things we liked, and then some of the games that Eugene is really strong at and a kind of a specialist at, became our favorites. Like we started, you probably got us playing Agizia, I would think. You got us playing Russian Railroads, I think.
Yeah.
And that was a very popular game for me for quite a while. It was my most played game in 2014 or something like that. Anyway, so I don't know. I just wanted to tell that story. So, all right. So here on my right hand, you're one of our 3 commenters here is Antony Saccenti. Introduce yourself a little bit. Where you're from? How do you get into games and so forth?
All right. I am Antony Saccenti, obviously, and I live in Maryland, Clora, Maryland, in Cecil County, and so my dad got me into playing games. Something unusual and different to do, and maybe get away from what usually other kids do is play nothing but electronics on the TV or something.
Which we still do.
Yeah, we still do.
Yeah.
And so you got us into board games. I think one of the first games you taught us, which is probably everyone's first game, is Settlers of Catan.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I think I remember winning it one time and enjoying myself. And so then we just kept playing that more and more.
Sure.
And then you moved us to Ticket to Ride, another early first game you should learn. And then you took us to our first convention, which was WBC.
That's 2012.
2012, which is where I got to play in the juniors.
Yeah, you were a 12-year-old kid that year.
I was 12 years old, and the juniors, the oldest you can be is 12. So I only got to do juniors 1 year, and so you taught us the games that we would play there, and I played enough at home with the family, and I ended up winning 2 junior plaques.
Couple events, right?
Yeah, and then so next year, which is a much bigger step, is where I start playing adults in the real games. And, going into that, I'm thinking, all right, I'm never going to win anything probably for another 5 years. Probably when I sit down at a table, the adults will think I'm a weak player, and I probably was for at least 2 years. But that's where I learned, and I got better and better. And now today I'm playing adult games and winning heats, events, and I've even won
a tournament.
A tournament, yeah. I recently won
WBC champion.
I recently won Raw, yeah. And so now when people sit down with me at tables, they're like, "Oh no, it's a Saccenti." This is every time.
I don't mean to talk over you, but I got to say something. This is something that it amuses me. It irritates me. It's actually a pet peeve of mine, and I've solved it by trying to run a few tournaments on my own. You heard us start this discussion with a kind of extensive analysis of the turn order and the seat position and things like that. One of the things I noticed when we first started going to these conventions, the tournament conventions, is I'm certainly not the only person who values seat position and turn order. And if you're playing in a competitive game, it can often matter that there is a stronger or a weaker player on a particular side of you. I mean, just to generalize, in most games, if you're playing in a clockwise order, if you sit immediately after perhaps a less experienced player, it might be to your advantage. You might get some things to go your way. Let's say in a worker placement game, you might get something that a better, sharper player might have picked up on, and that it floats down to you. So in a competitive context, I think it's really important to not let people choose their own seats. And the reason I say that is just to pick up on something that you said just now, where people would sit down and play and think you were a kid. I used to witness grown-ass men run around the table the long way. Like, if you ever go to a convention, the tables are a long table,
rectangular.
Right? And so you have to squeeze in, and so you have to pick which side you're going to be on. And I used to watch grown-ass men run all the way around, just hustle. See that?
To sit after the kid.
To try to sit after the kid. To try to sit after my kid. I would witness this, and I think to myself, okay. I see what you did there. Now, that didn't work out real well for them, because my kids know how to play games. My kids are real sharp gamers beyond their years. So even then, that was a source of amusement to me in a quiet way, but also irritation. And so I urge people who run tournaments, I do this in every tournament I run, that shouldn't be a part of board gaming. It's kind of cheesy. By the way, that makes it sound like I'm criticizing competitive gaming. I don't want people to use that as a piece of ammunition. You shouldn't play tournaments. People are always so competitive. I have actually had very, very few I don't think I've ever had any serious experience of any kind with poor sportsmanship or anybody behaving badly or anything. But a little thing like that is so easy to solve. If you're running the game, you're already handing out cards to people to tell them what table to go to. Have the place they sit in the circle on the card as well. That's the way I do for all the games that I run. And so there's none of that nonsense. Games should be set up randomly in a competitive environment, and there shouldn't be any gamesmanship or shenanigans on any level where they can be avoided. So that's my little rant there. Let me jump back to you and let you continue talking. But among other things, I want to hear how you got into this particular game and your experience with it.
We got into this game probably through Eugene, I would assume.
Might have been.
And we've probably played this more than 100 times.
We have.
We've probably tried every strategy, and so we just watch each other. Maybe Eugene does the builder strategy. You do the engineer, and over here doing the cows or something. We just see how each person does, and then maybe the next game we tried the other one. And so probably someone in one game like me, I'll probably be like, oh, that sucked. I want to try that next game. And so we've done it so many times. We know that we can play every strategy, and every strategy can win.
Yeah. It's always funny to read the Board Game Geek threads on this game where you'll have people say, oh, this particular strategy is overpowered. Often talking about cows usually.
Yes.
But, you're going to see in this game you're watching right now, a cow game played really well with a huge cow point at the end. It's just not as good as the builder.
And so actually getting back to the game we're looking at right now, Andrew's taking his turn. While we were yapping for the last 5 minutes, if you decide to roll this back, to roll all the way back to Donte's last turn, he's getting ready to take his turn soon. But if you noticed his last turn, he went to the hiring space, hired his builder to fill in his fourth builder space, which he evacuated as a station master. And then what he did was he upgraded a 1-level building to a 5-level building, which is, I think it is 7A.
7A, yeah.
Which is now a $3 tax building. And so he is definitely going to collect at least $2 or $3 for anybody that runs across the bottom row, which makes anybody like blue or red who doesn't have anything there just having to shell out even more money.
That is an awful, awful board state if you're blue or red right now. And it's not even that great for green, to be fair.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just looking at paying money.
Yes.
Yellow has guaranteed himself some kind of money from his opponents now because they have to go one way or the other.
You either have to go low and run over 2 hazards and pay $4, or you have to run the higher where the yellow, green, blue set is and pay $5. And I want to interrupt you because I want to actually have you walk us through what I named, but what you developed, which is the Southern strategy. But before we get there, let me say one more nice, flattering thing to you. This will be the last one for the day. You promise?
I do. Okay. So, like with many games, I learn from players that are better and smarter than me, and I copy what they do. I'm not a great innovator on any level. I think I'm a decent player. I'm usually pretty competitive, and I do all right. I'm not at the top, but I'm, somewhere nearby the final in many tournaments. I never win it, but I'm often, maybe even sometimes in it. But I'm not an innovator, and this is a game where I have watched you innovate again and again. We started playing this game. We were totally new to it, and we played it the way that you play it when you're new to it. We played cows. You bought some cows. You scored some points. You saw that. And then we watched this game evolve by seeing you innovate. And so the first thing that you showed us how to do was the train thing. Okay, I remember when the rest of us are playing cows.
Yeah.
And you started doing this thing where you would buy engineers. It's silly to talk about it now, but this was new at the time.
Right.
You would buy engineers, and you would fly your train all the way around. You would buy a bunch of station masters.
Get around the corner.
You'd get around the corner. You'd often make it all the way to the end and ring the bell, and it was just an eye-opening thing. It was like, oh, wow, you can do that, huh? That's a thing. You don't have to just buy cows.
Right.
I mean, it seems silly now, but when we first started playing the game, I don't think we knew what the track was for there.
Right.
Nobody's going around there. I know that seems silly now, but at the time, we watched you do that and we learned from it and we copied it. And then now we're all doing that. Okay, that's good.
That's one viable strategy.
And then you moved on from that, and you said, well, let's try the builder, and the builder turned out to be something that was pretty good too, but. There was a moment when we were playing this game. I don't know how long ago, about a year ago, maybe.
More a year.
Where I'll set you up and you take us home.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Eugene start to do this building strategy where we had to get a lot of builders and put a lot of buildings out. But it wasn't just that. He started putting buildings down there in the swamp, that bottom row. And I remember very, very well the first time or two that I saw you do that, and kind of smiling into my sleeve. Thinking to myself,
you pay those taxes.
That's an interesting idea. That's not going to work. But you enjoy playing around, Eugene, with your little experimenting. Because Eugene will sometimes start a game and he'll say, "All right, I'm going to do some experimenting this time." And so I remember when you first started doing that, I thought that's not going to work because just paying on the face of it, it seems so bad. You're paying money to the bank, and all your opponents are motivated to spam out every blue hazard in front of you. So, so what we're talking about, the name I gave to it was the Southern Strategy, and I did a little write up on some of the details of it on BGG. If you were to look at BGG for the 2017 or 18 PressCon recap, and where I wrote some things out. But this is all derived from watching you play and watching you set it up. So if you could walk us through this, and you're sharing the key to the mint here. Because right now, I know I'm talking a lot, but right now, this is the strategy that is winning this game. It's the strategy that's winning the game right in front of our faces as we watch this. And it is the strategy that was really successful in the tournament overall for the people who played it well. So can you walk us through what's going on here and the optimal sequences and all?
So there's two theories going on that when I was starting to do this, it was running through my mind, which was, okay, if you want to collect tax, you put up a tax building. But the way the board is set up, you can always run around at every choke point when you hit a neutral building, you can always split out. You can either go up or you can go down, or you can go left or you can go right. So then I started thinking, well, suppose you can put a tax building on both sides. You can go the top, and if we're talking about the swamp area, suppose you put a tax building on the top and the bottom. Well, then people will have to pay you no matter which way you go. So I started thinking about how to deal with that. That would be a good thing. So that was one thing that was running through my mind. And the other thing that was running through my mind has to do with what the game calls risk action spaces, which are the ones where it says, you have to go through a possible series of hazards, but if you put a building in a certain place, it also attaches that little stuff at the bottom where you can discard a card for either a cert bump and some money. And so I started looking at the buildings, and I think one time the buildings that happened to be in play were 3B and 4A. Okay, 3B is the building where you can do a double cycle action and you can move forward one.
It's a wonderful building.
It's a really good building because it allows you to cycle and you get to do another action. I thought, well, if you stick that in one of the swamp areas, and then next to it you stick 4A, and 4A happens to be where you're removing hazards, and then you get to move 2 spaces forward. Well, if you hit it in the right series, once you have the building set up, you can actually do 3 actions on one turn. And also, 4A is the one that allows you to remove hazards for $5. Well, if you have all those 2 buildings together and you have enough ones in your hand, the ones give you 2 certificate bumps and $4.
And you're able to hunt for the ones with the action from 3A.
Correct. So if you're able to set up 3B first, you cycle your hand so that you get at least 2 ones in your hand. And then you bump over to the 4A building, and then in this time you're doing 2 certificate bumps and $4, which is most of the money you need to remove the hazard. So now you're getting some hazard points, and then you notice that you will bump forward to whatever that neutral building is. That is the second neutral building. And so that seemed to be, especially if there's hazards in the game, and hazards are worth anywhere from 2 to 4 points. If you can plow through whatever waters there are, then you can start removing them. And also because 4A is a black hand, if anybody goes down your route, they still have to pay you $2. So it seemed to be, if you combine that with sticking your normal tax building in the upper row of right above the swamp, you'll always be getting some money. And so if you're doing, now to do this, you need pretty much a builder strategy. You need to get at least a couple builders. And so we've talked about if you're able to get your 4th builder out, you get to do a free build action where you get to upgrade or build at $1 per craftsman you use. And so I would say if things come out and you're trying something, you can try something like the following. Your first build when you start to build is build a 1-level building, building number 1, whether it's the A side or the B side, because that's a tax building for $1. Okay, and then the next time that you buy as many builders as you can afford, get down 3A and then 3B, and then get down 4A. Down in the swamp, and then the next time that you get a builder to get your 4th builder out, then you get to do a super upgrade. And what you want to do is upgrade your level 1 building to the number 7 building. And then if you notice, the 7 building is always a 5 level, so you would need 4 builders to upgrade from a 1 to a 5, and that is a $3 tax building.
And if I could interrupt just briefly. Mm-hmm. This is the moment in this sequence that your opponents really, really start to feel what has happened here to us. Right. When you get that $3 tax out, and you've got it out still early enough in the game that you know that you're going to have to pay that probably at least 3 times. You know? Right.
Every other player is going to have to pay. And so the part of the key to this is making sure you get the building, that you get the building spaces reserved.
The spots. Yes.
The spots, okay? Yeah. That you actually get something down there so that nobody can take it away from you. And so, like if we're looking at the game that we have in front of us, the final, you can see that yellow has his, he has his 2 buildings, not exactly the same buildings that I was talking about, but he has 2 buildings down in the swamp. One is the copy building, which is 8B and 10B, and so he's got all that set up. And not only that, but in the row above it, he's got his 5, 6, 7 building. Yeah. So that's a $3 tax, and so anybody walking through there, it just has to run this gauntlet of money, and he's doing what he wants to do.
Can we talk
yes.
just a moment for?
Yes.
So you're walking us through the ideal setup, and then now we can look at the way Donte has done it. Let me be a little critical. He's done exactly what he needed to do with the 7 building, 7A or B, I forget which it is. He's got that. He's got that where it belongs. Yes. He did that in the right sequence. You buy the 1, and then as you noted, you upgrade it by 4 when you hit that builder.
Yes.
What you're looking for in the swamp itself, though, when I play the strategy that what Donte's doing there, I actually usually try to put the 8-10 combo in a different spot on the board than there. I usually have that up north somewhere.
Right.
Either in the desert right there, or it doesn't really matter. It's just a little bit higher up where the 4 springs me out, because what he's not doing in the swamp is drawing his hand. So it's not quite as good. Right. Now, granted, in this particular game, 3B is not in the game, so that wasn't an option. Mm-hmm. But 4B is. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that 1 extra draw, you want to draw the 1s. The 1s are really good.
Yes.
You get them out of your hand. You get the shirt bump. You get the money. It's so good. And in this particular game, I know he won. Okay, but there were numerous times where Donte did not have 1s to play.
Correct.
He didn't set that up the way I would have done it. I'm being super critical. I just think that it's part of the larger discussion of and what you're talking about, which is the sequence of buildings. The spots are so important. Where different buildings go is really all part of this. It's so fragile in a way.
It is.
It's a really strong way to play, but it's also the most vulnerable to opponent interference. Is that
correct?
Fair to say? Yeah.
Correct. It is. Although if you get, and I think part of it in what we're talking about in this particular game is because all of the building spots start getting filled up. I'm not sure if he would have had any other places to put two buildings together.
That's possibly
to
true,
improve up to that.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, let me jump on and pile on the eventual champion.
Yes.
And then criticize him again for what's going on.
Wait till we get to Andrew.
Okay, so here we go. All right. So now what I want to talk about is building 9A, which is in the game.
Wow.
And building 9A is a really strange building. It allows you, A, to move your train up 3 spots, but B, the other half of it is what's called an extraordinary delivery, and it allows you to deliver up on the top row whatever number you can deliver, meaning the number of spaces you count your train backwards. So, for example, if you were on space 20, you could count back 10, move your train back 10 spaces and drop in 10. 10 is Albuquerque, which is a really great place to drop. So where Donte is, where his train is, he's got, he has engineers. No, he doesn't have engineers, but he's got the 444s paired together. And so he can move up 8 spaces. And so what a couple of us saw at the time, maybe about 10 minutes ago, is that the possibility existed for him to get the 9A building out. And if you see where his train is now, if he can move it far enough down, he could actually, if he had that building out and landed on it, he could move back 18 spaces and make a delivery to San Francisco. And this is completely irrelevant of anything else going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
which is a 9-point play.
Yes.
And also, if you want to point out how can it be a 14-point play, if you look...
The objective card.
If you have an objective card for San Francisco,
which is sitting right there,
it's sitting right there,
and no one else is going to take it because no one else is getting it.
And I will also tell you that when this game was going on, the last time Donte made a building placement, he placed his cow market, and if you can see where it is, it's right in the middle of the board.
Yes.
When he did that, it was really funny because one of Andrew's friends happened to make this statement. He says, "Oh, I see what you're doing." And my friend Chris and I looked at each other and said, "No, you don't." Because he didn't see what was really going on. And what we thought Donte was going to do is make that placement there with his 1-level building, which is building 2A. And then eventually when he got his 6th builder out, improve the level 1 to a level 7.
A +6.
Okay, which is a +6. Okay. Now, Donte didn't do that. Okay. He ended up dropping his 4th builder into the station house, which is on the far right, which I think was an absolute total mistake.
Yes.
He did not see it, but...
what he did got him points.
Got him some
points. But not 14 points.
But got him some points, but it lost him his 4th builder, and now he'll never get up to 6 builders again. And so he will not...
more than 14 points. He's given up the 4 pop on the at the end of game bonus for the... Or he's gonna have to work back to it.
Given the amount of time, I think he's got at least still 2 loops to go. He could probably make it all the way to the bottom, ring the bell, and even drop back. When you ring the bell, what we say, when you reach the 39 spot with your train, it allows you to drop a disc there, $3 for 9 points. And it also allows you to move your train back wherever you want. And you can drop back to the very next station house, which is on the 34, 35 spot. And that's 8 points for $5. And if he had gotten his building 9A out, he could still make a San Francisco delivery.
Yeah.
So he could have gotten a crap load of points.
He could have creamed us by even
more. Yeah, so Donte's going to win this game. He's going to win this game by, 4
4
points.
4. But he could have won by close to 20.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. But, he's just a kid, so what the heck? Cut him a break.
Yeah.
I mean, we were looking at this game. It's like, honestly, you guys still haven't hit the cow market the second time. I mean, there's 12 spaces left for heads, so there's probably 2 loops left.
So I'm teasing Andrew a lot in this commentary. We love Andrew. He's a really good guy, really fun to play with. He's also really good at games. It's always
insanely good.
He's a really sharp player, and when you sit down at a game with him, you're happy to have him as company, but you're also saddened by your own chances of winning have been diminished so much. So I've been teasing him a lot. I do think that he played a strong game, but I think he made a couple mistakes, just enough to lose. I think over the course of the last game. I also have to continue to tease him just a little bit. If you watch his turns in this game, he takes some really long turns. I know we're all playing slow, and I'm a slow player, but what's happening every time he goes through the loop is when he hits his last building, the one where it lets you draw his hand. So he's drawing at this point of the game. He's drawing 5 cards, and it's about a 3-minute turn every time he does that, because he's sitting there thinking about. It's a big decision, I draw 5 cards. I have to discard 5 cards, and then he has to really puzzle out. Okay, so what am I going to do? And this is where, looping back to that earlier thing, it's just so much simpler when you put that building as your springboard into Kansas City. Then there's nothing to think about. Then you take your 5 best cards.
5 in, 5 out.
Yeah, and
you get your best 5, then you go.
But he's always having to puzzle out, okay, he's doing it now.
Right.
So the audience can enjoy the next, because I shouldn't promise, but I think we're going to be watching him think this through for about 2 or 3 minutes here as he puzzles out what cards he keeps, whether he's going to stop to buy cows, whether he's going to buy any more heads, he's going to buy that 6 head or whatnot. We still have a good half hour left, I think, in the game itself. So let's pull back as we continue to watch these 4 players run their engines and go around the loop. Let's talk in general again, some more big picture strategy. And
I have something none of us have figured out, and I believe it will not work. So on the bottom left of the player board, there are 2 actions where you can trash a card from your game, and you would go back a space on your train track. And so there's a strategy here of trying to shred your hand, have enough cowboys and maybe an engineer to be able to, when you trash your cards, go back enough spaces and then have the money to buy the cowboys, get enough cows. And so this strategy is you want to have probably a perfect hand to get to 18. So you need a purple cow, a brown, and then one of each 3. I mean, there's ways to maybe have just some of the 3s, maybe a 4, and then you have certificates. But I have not seen the shredding strategy.
Also, it's also called a deck thinning strategy. You could reference Dominion and call it, what's that? It's a Chapel deck?
Chapel, I think it is, yeah.
This is the, the thing that nobody's figured out yet. Everyone I know who knows the game really well, I think, has at least tried it at least once or twice. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting to see. I think this is a wonderful game. My hat's off to the designer for coming up with a game where there's so many different ways to play, so many different ways to win. We saw that in this tournament. There were 52 games of Great Western played in this tournament, and we saw cows win a bunch. We saw trains win, maybe not a bunch, but we saw trains win. We saw Builder win, maybe not as much as cows, but we saw Builder win some important games. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of ways to win this. I want to talk about another way to win this later too, which is to do a little bit of everything if that's viable. But what Antony's referencing now, I would love to see someone pull it off. Any thoughts on it? I mean, have you had any success doing this?
I've tried it. I've lost to it a couple times. One person did it where, and to do it well, I think the first thing that has to happen is that your first white disc off is the trashing. Which is the bottom, the bottom
pacing,
row.
Pacing's so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is to get the second disc off as fast as possible. And if you are able to move your train up a little bit into the first station house, you're not doing it in order to get a station master exchange, but you're doing it just to get another white disc off.
So that you can take a double action early.
Yes. And so usually the people that are relatively successful at it have told me they don't start trashing until they can get both discs off, and then it's more efficient. And given that you have 14 cows to begin with, you certainly need to buy at least one of each of the yellow, red, blue threes, and then maybe a brown cow and maybe a purple cow. But you want to trash, of those original 14 cards, you probably want to trash at least 10 of them.
Starting with the ones, probably.
Yeah, the ones, and even if it's your when it's on your turn and there's twos in your hand, it's okay. You just keep track of them. Just keep
one,
track
two
of
of each start.
Yeah. At least get rid of one of each of the twos, and maybe two of each of the twos. And so you want to get your deck thinned down to anywhere from 6 to 10 cards, but of maybe 4 or 5 at most of the original deck, so that most of the cards that you're seeing are new stuff or different stuff, and so that you're getting a good value. And then once it happens the first time, like almost everything else in this game, the faster you can get your first black disc off, your game starts to open up. Whether you get your 5th card or you get the speed going, your game just seems to be easier from that. If you never get that first black disc off, you feel like you're completely hamstrung, and you're just figuring some way out, and you just feel like you've lost a whole loop.
Like many Euro games, and this at the front of the list and this kind of thing. Set up in this game. Your everything you do in the first third of the game, everything you're thinking about, is trying to set up a game state where in the last third of the game you're scoring points. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, nothing different than many Euros. Here I am making my way around the corner there.
Yeah.
Toddling along.
Oh, you God. Make your way down.
Dropping discs, scoring points. Yeah. Gliding my way into third place.
I think I actually just reached my 5th cowboy.
Did you really?
But I think the game's about to end because 3 more people, so that's just great.
Yes.
And I'm one of the people going in, so now the next 2 people are going. I'll never even get to the next cowboy.
We got room for 3 more deliveries, yeah. Where's your... You and I are both in the same mental state at this point of the game, right? You know you're out, right? You've lost.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping against hope that... But I could see that the points were not going to be quite there. I've played the game enough to have a decent sense of it. I could see the points were not going to be quite there, and also not to get deep into the weeds too much, but my last turn is not going to be good because I'm not going to have. At the end of the day, I'm not going to have enough money when I come around that loop to buy my 6th engineer, which would have been 4 points easy. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have. I'm going to have to spend my certificates, even though I have the station master that gives you a bonus for certificates. Mm-hmm. I'm going to end up having to spend them to have a decent delivery because, it was 8 points to have a nice delivery instead of the 6 points I would have had if I didn't have to spend the certificates. Little stuff like that. I could see it coming. Even at this point, I could see it coming. And I knew that I'm just not going to have a great end of game here. And I'm at this point in the game, we're close to the end. I'm thinking my game is nearly over. When you're the train guy and you ring the bell, it's time for the game to end now. Because you did what you're going to do, and there's not a whole lot more points coming for you.
Right.
So I'm looking at the board right now. I am 6 spaces away from ringing the bell. I don't have anything particularly sweet going on in my hand. I need to ring that bell in the game before other players score points. We're at the point in the game at the end where people are getting, 5 to 15 points a turn. Yeah, this is a little strategy tip for less experienced players. If you're asking the question, should I end the game or not? The answer is almost always yes, in the game. 8 times out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can sit there and puzzle it out and really think about what the other player is going to do, and maybe you have something special that's going to get you an advantage over them. But in my experience, 8 times out of 10 at least, if you're wondering whether you should end the game, the answer is probably yes. End the game, get it over with. Others are scoring points.
Right.
Get it over with.
It feels weird that all you're getting is 2 points when you end it. It feels like it's only the 2-point chip and everybody else gets an extra action. But if your stall, unless your stall gets you a ton of points, everybody else is going to get their ton of points too. So almost always I agree with Scott. If the question is what to do, then what you want to do is just end the game. So here's Donte again doing his 4-4-4 and then another 4-4-4 and just racing down the track.
Meanwhile, you and I, maybe at this point, because Eugene is watching the game off to the right. That might have been, was that you that reached in?
Yeah.
You and I are past the point now of wondering when he's going to pull off that 14-point play. It's gotten to be too late now.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out. And now when I see him not pulling that off, I'm thinking Andrew might win this. In fact, I think I'm probably thinking Andrew is probably going to win the game because I know he's got a big deck of cows in there.
Right, he's got tons of points on
53.
his cow cards.
Let's jump up to that a little bit. It's kind of cutting to the end a little bit too quickly, but Andrew is going to end the game with 53 points in cows. Now, over the course of the tournament, remember I said there were 52 games played. That's the second best cow score that we produced in the tournament. There was one player who had 58. Andrew's 53 it's a staggering number. It's usually whenever I play a strategy, whether it's if I'm doing trains, I want a station number that, if possible, starts with a 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's optimistic. If I'm doing buildings, I definitely want a building number that starts with a 4, and that won't be enough. And if I'm doing cows, I want a cow number, the cow points that start with a 4.
In the 40s. Yep.
53 is really, really good, and he's not playing against 3 slouches here, and he's not got cows to himself either. He has a player on his right hand who he's sitting after with 5 cowboys who's aggressively buying cows too. To get 53 was really impressive. I think it was a really strong result. He's not going to win the game doing it though, as it turns out. As good as that was, and by the way, the one player who got more than him over the course of the tournament, there was a player who had 58 points in cows. That player lost to Chris Wilds, a buddy of ours, part of our Maryland crew. He lost to Chris, who did a builder strategy. So the 2 best cow scores in the tournament, which were great results, both lost to a builder. Both weren't enough.
I wonder if that builder had the 2 Southern spots to themselves on both those games.
I'd have to ask Chris if he played Southern in that or not. I don't know. He probably did, though.
He probably did.
Yeah, he knows how to do it.
Yeah. He has been doing, ending up exactly what Donte's setup is. The 4-4-4 is down in the swamp. It's taken him, the last couple of times I played him, he's done that. And it's taken him a long time to set up. But once it gets going, he came really, really close to winning.
When you get to the final score on this game, and you wonder, well, how is it that Andrew gets 53 points in cows, and Donte, who played the builder, ends up with 38 points. That's actually not crazy great as a builder. It's a good score.
Solid.
It's very solid. But again, if I'm the builder, I want a number that starts with 4, in addition to all the other wonderful stuff that the builder enabled me to do. Also, Donte took. Has this happened to him yet? Did he drop in the space where he takes a -4? We're not quite there. Yellow dropped at one point. Yellow dropped in the -4. The thing that he did, the thing you never do.
Yeah, he's already got.
Oh, the -3 spot.
-3 on one side, -1 on the other.
Yeah.
He did the thing you never do, which is link up. I don't have the board in front of me, but what are the 2 cities that you don't link up? Is it which?
It's Topeka, Wichita.
Yeah.
Is the -3, and Wichita, Colorado Springs is the -1.
So you never drop in Wichita unless you're forced to, because that fires those penalties.
Right.
Donte ended up taking for a delivery score of -15 in deliveries. Andrew's final delivery score was Not great either.
It was 8, I think.
It was not. It was 8 because Andrew dropped 3 times in KC.
6.
Yeah,
Was it 6?
Yeah, if you look at the top row of the game board, you can see Donte's yellow discs. I mean, he's got it in Kansas City,
2,
he's got it in
right?
Topeka, and he's got Wichita, and he's got Colorado Springs.
This is the holy grail of failure there.
Yeah.
Yes, but he has to because he's not. He hasn't.
Because
had no
he's
cows.
not generating. Yeah, his cat. He never bought cows.
His hand
so
will always ever be 7.
Yes, his hand is always going to be junk unless he has certificates.
Which
he did get, but it was too late for that startup.
This is the funny thing about this particular setup. I've noticed. I've played this a bunch myself. When you do the 8B 10B thing, if you let it, it's propelling you around the board. You know, with the +4 movement coming out of it.
Super fast,
yeah.
right?
And so you're being hurdled around the board as a builder, and yet you're coming in with really, really awkward numbers. So you really don't have the builder never really has a huge, usually the builder does not have a huge interest in deliveries anyway.
Correct.
But even worse when it's not building 10A. 10A is the building that saves you as a builder on deliveries. I love 10A. I'm starting to like 10A better than 10B. Because 10A fires you around the board with that 5 movement.
Yes.
But it's okay because you're going to be delivering with a +6.
You blast your certificates all
with
the
a
way
+6
down.
to your hand. You're actually if you're pulling that off as the builder, if you have 10A in the game, up to a point you're delivering as well as the cow guys are.
Yeah.
There's a cap on it.
Right.
But because at some point you have to buy cows if you want a really, really strong delivery game.
I think 10B is so much better than 10A.
I
so much other stuff you get. And
the problem with 10B is the problem you see on Donte's. Okay, he won. Okay,
Yeah.
let me return to the fact that he won. But it does. I've had games like he's having with 8B with 8B 10B, which is you're setting up in a situation where that delivery is so awkward it hurts you bad, and to have to deliver in Wichita, which is the naughty place. When he did it, we all laughed at him in this game.
Yeah.
I laughed at him. Yeah, you know, because that was, you know, that is an opponent messing up and failing. And I remember that moment in the game where he delivered there, and he was worrying me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he had stuff going on that was good. But when he delivered there, I thought, okay, the boot's off my neck a little bit. And then maybe the thing that kept a glimmer of hope alive for me also was that Andrew delivered to KC 3 times.
Right.
That's unusual for a cow.
That's an extra 6.
That's unusual for a cow player.
Right.
I don't see that.
That's true.
We should have marked that moment, I guess, maybe better.
We saw when he was thinking about it, and it sure looked like a mistake. It felt like that, giving up the extra 6 points to the table. Because nobody else was going to go in 3 times. And now he's 6 points behind, and he didn't get much out of it. Just didn't feel like the $6 was that important.
I don't think the cow guy usually has to do that.
They shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Because your cows should be propelling you forward.
And the cow guy doesn't need money. Everybody needs money in the game. Absolutely. But the cow guy doesn't need money quite in the way that the builder does early on when you're tempted to make that 3rd drop. Usually the cow guy is able to get, because the cowboys themselves are setting up those really efficient cow purchases. It's not like when you're the builder, sometimes you have to lay out of pocket $12 to build a building, you know. You're going to just go ahead and okay, I'm here, I have 6 builders. I'm going to build a 6 building, I'll pay the 12.
Yeah.
It's the cow guy doesn't usually have to lay out 12, you know, to score a lot of points.
I want to throw out one more random thought that had occurred to me, which is I noticed, and I don't know if there's a matter of timing involved with this, but maybe earlier is better, that when you start the game out with your starting deck of your 14 cow cards, the best you can deliver is 7, right? 2, 2, 2, 1.
Yeah.
The certificates have to work out perfectly for you to make a 10 delivery. So no matter whatever strategy you're playing, and I don't know if this is always perfect, but getting an early cow, a 3 cow, really makes the possibility of you delivering for 10 or to 12, a real possibility, sometime during the game.
Yes.
I've played engineer and I've played builder without ever buying a cow. And
Yes.
I know I'm always hamstrung the way Donte is.
Yes.
But if I got a 3, at some point in time, you'll be able to make a delivery for 10 without, they have to fit in right with the other 2s and 1s, but you can do it. Whereas if you never buy a cow at all, you have to be incredibly lucky in order to make it work.
Totally agree. I think we've all played games where we won the game without ever buying a cow.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm starting to shift a little bit toward getting a 3 maybe early, or if I'm doing engineer strategy and running my train, if I get an extra worker, it'll be a cowboy, and I use it just once to buy a 3, and then I dump it, in a station master.
It wasn't good enough to propel me to a win, but I did buy. I took our own advice there, and early in this game, I bought a blue cow. My first loop. I just think you're right. You need just get one in there.
What's your thoughts if you're playing a cowboy game and you have 2 cowboys, and this is like first turn of the game, and then your first cow buy is a $12 purple cow?
I've seen that work.
I have too.
It could be okay. Yeah.
A 5 is an absolute killer that'll almost always get you to a black disc.
Yeah.
I think it's good because if I'm playing I don't play cows a lot, but if I'm playing a cow game, I want a lot of points in my deck at the end. I want to, win the game that way, but I also want to have the holy grail for the cow guy is to have a row of, like if I'm Andrew on blue, if you're the cow guy, you want to end the game with a row of blue discs on the right side of the board. Mm-hmm. You want to fill up all those spaces, preferably even ending up in San Fran. Yep. Now, if you've played this game enough times, you know that you're going to get 6 discs down. I mean,
right. It's probably 6.
It's almost always 6.
Yep.
There are occasions when you might get 7 because some other player got 5. But the way the game is structured, everybody drops about 6 discs down.
Yep.
And when Antony says get that 5 early, that's probably one of the few and best ways to achieve that row of discs on the right side. Because if you don't have that 5, your first delivery is probably going to be in the 8 spot. And once you've dropped in the 8 spot, if you just do the math right now, there's not going to be enough discs. You're going to Kansas City once or twice.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be dropping in the 8 if you want to set up that really, really good board state at the end. We're getting close to the end here.
You're about to end it on your turn.
Yeah, Andrew goes in, and he didn't know that I was going to end it or not because he hadn't. He says it on the audio track of the game itself. He didn't realize I had no money. So I'm going to I have nothing to do but go in. There's nothing else for me. And there's so much that I could be doing. I mean, buying an engineer right now is really good. 4 points for that would be great. Sad. By the way, did anyone witness Antony's?
I'm telling everybody at the table right now that I screwed up and I should have gave Donte $2 because now I'm not getting into Kansas City for my. I think I had it was an 8-point drop because I was going to go into San Diego. So it's 8 points for being on both sides of San Diego and El Paso. I also get the money points wise for the delivery of end of game points. And I also get my 3-point black disc off. And I was the only one. So it was about 15, 16 points. Goodness. So my 49 should have been around like 55 instead. And so instead of losing by like 28, I lost by like 38.
This was a disastrous end to a disastrous game for you. If anybody, we were talking over it, but if anybody noticed, the Reds' prior turn, he actually ended on a hazard space and took a neutral action.
Yeah,
I mean, we're at the end of the game. You're getting 5 to 15 points a turn at the end of the game.
Right.
And the red player's taking a neutral action for a buck or whatever it was. Oh my goodness, that's just death.
Thanks.
Sorry. And just so you know, I mean, even though Antony ended up 4th,
we should
in the semifinal, he and I played against each other, and he scored 94 points playing cows. He beat Shadow, and I played trains, and I got 91. and the other two players who are also both solid players,
Kyle and
Shadow, ended up in the 50s and 40s.
That's a great table. And we've been bashing Antony really hard because he had this game was a tough trip for him. But it should be noted that the prior big tournament, which was PresCon, Winter PresCon, Antony won that tournament. Yes. He won it running away. He won it by 20 points. The other players at the table it was me, Rodney, and Kevin Walsh, and we were all within a point. It was like 81, 80, 80, something like that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think Rodney
was over 100.
And he won by 20. So Antony had a bad trip in this one. I think he made the mistakes that we talked about earlier.
I gambled on me hoping Andrew would do something else and I'd be in cows alone. It worked out in my semifinal game. I did the same thing he did in this game, but better. Yeah. But he scored more cow points actually, but I was just in every column in my semifinal game, scoring points, including the big points and cows.
The end is triggered. Green triggered the end. That's going to give everybody one last turn. Where are we at on that? Anti's taking his last one right now. The green player.
No, I think
Green ended it, so this is my last turn of the game.
Oh, you are taking your last
Green
turn.
just went to go get...
Anti's realizing he doesn't have enough... He can't get in,
yep.
So there's nothing good. Wow.
I'm like taking a disc down for a point. That was my turn.
That's just so bad. Oh, that's so bad.
I had no money.
Your last 3 turns were awful. Oh.
I know, I screwed up. I was just so pissed Andrew went cows.
At this point, by the way, we're informing Donte how badly he messed up by not getting that San Fran card. And doing
I actually sort of thought that Andrew had won.
I did too. This is a good time as
any.
Felt
like he had tons of cows.
This is a good time as any because we're about to start scoring. To take a look at the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And think about Andrew's game versus Donte's game, and what the difference was there. So Andrew scores 53 points in cows. On a final score, set inside the bid, he scored 79 points. We drop it down to 74 with the 5-point bid. So he scored 79 points, 53 of which was cows. The other 26 is...
A little bit of everything.
It's a little bit, but it's just a little. Just a little. Think about Donte's final score. Donte's final score was 38 on buildings. He took a minus 15 on deliveries. So in a way, if you want to look at it like that, he's starting with 23 points. Mm-hmm. He ends the game with 82 before taking off for the bid. He goes from 23 to 82. What is that? 59?
Yeah.
That's he managed 59 points in other ways. Yeah. 19 in stations, 6 in hazards, 6 in cows, 8 in objectives, 9 in station masters, 8 in the worker boat. Oh my goodness!
It's that 19 in his stations where I think he really got it because of the 444 allowed him to do both strategies. He got to pick up
station masters
and the points for them. Yeah, it was just too much.
So he did 2 things. He played one strategy that allowed him to do 2 things. That's really wonderful.
So good.
But I want to look. I mean, 8 points in objectives, 9 in station masters. He got the 8-point. He had a deep game, and Andrew's a wonderful player, but Andrew played a shallow game. Donte's game was deep, and Andrew's was shallow. And Andrew did not have a lot going on in this game aside from that really wonderful cow number.
Right.
And Donte just and when we add the score up, which we'll be there in a minute. See, Andrew's pulling out his cows now, and it's going to take him a while.
Right.
Yeah, one deck's really hot.
He's going to need to get a calculator out for that.
Right. They might be equal-sized decks.
But when we went to add the score, and we're getting close to that. I think that's Rob standing up on the left there because I ran off to get a score sheet or something like that.
Yeah.
And you all started scoring, and when I rejoin you. We were walking through the numbers, and we scored it in turn order, I think. We did Andrew first.
Yeah.
And when he said 53 on the cow, there was a gasp in the room.
Right.
That is a really strong number. That was, again, the second highest number in the entire tournament, and these are good players we're playing. There was a gasp in the room, and I think what I uttered was, that's enough. I thought that was enough.
Yeah.
And then we start scoring Donte's, and maybe I'll include the score sheet in the notes for this video. When you walk through Donte's score and you start with that 38 number for buildings, and so you're off to a good start, but then you take away minus 15 for deliveries. Again, looking to the screen there, that row of yellow discs in all the wrong places.
Right.
All of a sudden we're back down to 23. No, that's not going to work out. I went down the column, +6, +9, +6, +8. And before you know
He's
it,
almost scoring 10 in every other one.
before you know it, he was on top of him.
Yeah.
It was so impressive. Hats off. We've been very critical of
And so Donte,
from my position in third place. I've been very critical. I've been very critical of the top two players, but my hat's off to both of them. They beat me.
and if there was no bidding, he still wins by 3.
Yeah. For what it's worth,
79.
Good point. Thank you. The bid, while quite important, as it turned out, did not change the order. It very well could have changed the game. And I think the bid's really important, but the subtracting the points didn't flip anybody's result.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and counting things up. And
I don't think we said the actual scores of everybody's score in this game.
Yeah, walk us through
it was first place was 78, which was Donte, the yellow player. Second place was Andrew, who was blue. He had 74. Green's final score was 69, and then my final score was 49.
Yes, it was.
I say that.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever not been, just to be nice to you for a moment, have you ever not been in a final? There are 4 finals I know of Great Western tournaments. We had one at Game Days in 2017, I think. And then we had PresCon 2017 summer. And then we had Winter PresCon 2018.
I was in every final.
You were in every final, right?
Yeah.
You were in every final. You're in this final.
I only won one of them.
I also was in every final. Eugene's been in a couple of them. You were in the Game Days one.
Right.
And you were with us at the first PresCon. First PresCon, yeah.
Yep.
Donte has not been in every one.
He's
won 2 of them. Okay. You got to give him that.
Yeah, he's won 2 of them. So this is these are tournaments that are being attended by, between 25, 30, and in this example,
now
106 players. So
Yeah.
these are good tournaments to show off your level of experience in the game, and we're seeing some of the same players return over and over again. My game group, my family, in some cases. So I'm pretty proud of that. If I might say that. I would like to win one myself, though. I really would. I'm very proud of my kids doing well in this game. I would like to win myself.
So that's what us kids do. We watch you guys, and then we do better.
That's definitely true.
So this is this is probably a good time as any to put in some final thoughts, because we are walking through the score on the video. We're walking through the score. Any last thoughts on this game going forward? Let me start with Eugene. I don't know, anything you felt like was left unsaid, or also if you might want to chip in on what do you think the future of this game is going forward? Optimistic, pessimistic on?
I think that it is a great game. Like I said earlier, I think it's endlessly replayable. There are a whole lot of people that absolutely adore it, and I'm certainly one of them. So I think it's and I mean, I know that that's just a personal feeling, but it just seems to be a really, really solid game. And I will tell you up front that I can't stand Dominion, okay, but for some reason I think that the card moving policy part of the game is fine, and maybe I just never gave Dominion enough of a chance. But I still think that there's lots of strategies. For the number of times I've played it, which is a lot, I'm still trying to find sweet spots on things to do. So, for example, if you're moving your train, if you're doing engineer strategy, how much is it that you move your train versus just getting the trains, getting the engineers and then moving them, and then how much do you fight for station masters? Do you fight for them early, or you just wait and fight for them late? So for me, I'm still exploring, what are the best ways of executing any particular strategy. So I just think it's a wonderful game. There've been other games that I've liked a lot that have come and gone. Zolkin I thought was a wonderful game, but it doesn't get played much anymore. I think people have figured out that game to the point where it's either broken or either you're good at it or you stink at it, and so people don't want to play it anymore. Russian Railroads is not quite as bad, but most of the strategies have been thoroughly investigated, and I don't think there's anything new on the horizon for that.
You were leading right into something I wanted to talk about for this
ahead.
game, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. I think that Great Western has the potential to follow in the footsteps of a game like Zolkin and Russian Railroads, and that worries me because, in other words, I think that these are games where you can get players who achieve a really high level of play. There are some games that we play and enjoy a lot. A game like Stone Age, where not everyone can win the game, but it's almost possible that everyone can maybe have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can roll really well.
Yeah.
You can see some of the obvious things and not make any major blunders and end up and so we'll have these tournaments at WBC where there's we have 200 people in the Stone Age tournament. Mm-hmm. And Stone Age has been out for many years, and people still keep coming back to play, because I think one of the things that's really important in some of these games that we play is that even casual players can sit down at a table and think, I got a shot here.
Yeah.
I mean, things could go my way. I know that I'm playing somebody who's played it a lot more than me, but I have a shot here. I could roll some sixes. I could things could work out.
That is absolutely true.
With some of these other games, with Zolkin is a great example. Russian Railroad is a great example, and I fear this game might be on that path as well if we're not careful as a community of players for this game. Is that I don't think that a casual player can sit down at a game of Great Western and expect to defeat someone who's played it a lot and who really knows the game. I don't see that happening. I didn't see that happen in this tournament at all. And we had a great turnout for this tournament. I was so happy. And we had a great mix of people come out and play the game. We had a lot of casual players come out and play the game. We had a lot of people play the game. Out of the 106 players, I bet probably 50 of them were playing it for, if not the first time, maybe the first third or fourth time.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. And for a game to really survive, it's got to have that kind of appeal. So one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, honestly, was because I wanted to give people who are seeing the game and are interested in the game, but maybe would like to see how. I went to WBC and I played a game of Great Western, and there were a couple players doing some weird things, and I ended up, and I like the game, and I win when I'm back at home, when we play with the local game group. But the guys and gals at WBC, they were playing it a different way than me. They were doing things that I haven't seen before, and I lost by 40.
Right.
And I had a bad time.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to, I hope we've accomplished something with this video, just to have a conversation about some of the basic strategies and things that we're looking at. Not that we're these geniuses, but we've played this game a lot. We've played the game a whole lot, and we've seen how certain things have more or less value. I want others to not on any level be discouraged. I don't want to see Great Western go the way of Russian Railroads and Zolkin,
right,
where people will not want to enter the tournament, maybe not even want to enter the tournament because they're thinking to themselves, well, this is not a winnable game. It is nothing we've talked about here is, terribly complicated. I mean, the basic Euro game rules apply for this game, which is to say, set up, be thinking ahead, be willing to take some disadvantage things that don't appear to be great early because it's going to help you later. Things like giving up the 6 points for the $6, little things like that. Like many Euro games, pick a strategy, try to do it well.
Yeah.
Maybe try to avoid doing the same thing that a couple other players are doing. Try to find your own little. These are basic Euro game tenets. Probably try to find your own little avenue for success and get off to the side somewhere.
Yep.
So that's the. I hope you watch the video and you have sort of some of these things in mind. Antony, some final thoughts on where the game is or anything that we didn't cover.
Nothing about the final. Just that I like the game in the way that there's different strategies every time you play, and then I think my favorite part about the game is the starting neutral buildings, that they're in a different spot every game. So it's going to be different every game where you place your taxing building, where you're going to buy the cows, where you're buying the people. And then none of us know anything about the expansion to this, but there's an expansion coming out called Rails to the North, which apparently has a added board to the regular baseboard. So I don't know how that's going to go, but maybe it'll make the game even better.
I look forward to trying it out once I get bored with the base game, which
Yeah.
I've played 110 times
doesn't
now,
get
and I haven't
boring.
gotten bored yet. So, okay.
Yep.
So I want to thank everybody who hung with us for this long talk.
Hey, Scott, can I just interject?
Of course, yeah.
I just want to throw in one more thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the one thing that I did notice that new players over the last maybe year and a half that we've been playing the game, the thing that would discourage new players or inexperienced players is the whole money thing. I've certainly seen people that have played it a certain way, usually cow strategy, and then they run into a game where there's buildings all over the place, and that when they're paying all their money, just like maybe Antony had to do this time around, get so discouraged.
It's not fun.
It makes it actually literally sucks the fun out of the game for them. And so maybe if they watch this, they'll learn some things about how to mitigate that so they can stay in the game and it doesn't turn into this awful grind for them. So
I think we've got to the point where a lot of us feel like the builder strategy is maybe a good ticket to victory. But if you heard us earlier, vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
It really is.
High risk, high reward.
It is, yeah. And so when you come across, I hate to give people advice on how to knock me out of the tournament, but if you come across me in the heat, I mean, when in that heat I played, when Henry Allen dropped the other tile down in the south, he hurt himself, but he took me out of the game, and I lost the game. I lost that game. So don't be discouraged. There's ways to fight. Even players who have a little bit more experience than you and they're doing their own thing, you can get in their way in this game. So anyway, I really had a great time doing this. I hope you all did too. Anybody who managed to slog their way all the way through this long final in Andrew Emmerick's super long, what were they, 8-9 minute turns as he come around the corner there. Just crazy long turns.
Does
by
he
Andrew.
have your email address?
No,
because you're going to hear something.
I don't. He's never going to watch this whole thing because he wouldn't be able to put up with his own turns. I think he's never going to do that. But thank you everybody for hanging with us. I had a great time doing this, and I hope it's something that's been helpful and it's been something I wanted to do, and so there it is. So thanks again, and hope to see you at the next event. If you're listening to this in time to get there, the next big Great Western event is going to be in November of 2018. It's going to be at a convention called EuroQuest, which is in Pikesville, Maryland. You can find out more information about that, I'm sure, by Googling EuroQuest. And maybe,
or the GCOM website.
Yeah, GCOM, which is GCOM, Games Club of Maryland. And we really hope to see you there. I invite you to watch this video and come to Pikesville and drop a tile down in the swamp and mess my game up.
Yeah.
So thanks again. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.